You are a rebel. Whether you want to acknowledge it or not, I'll tell you straight up. You are a rebel against the living God. This is your natural disposition. Why? Because you are born in sin. We are in a prison cell. And it takes the awakening and the grace of God, you call it the prevenient grace of God, to awaken us to the fact that we are lost and we can't get out. We're headed towards destruction fast. The enemy, because of our rebellion against God, has legal rights to harm and harass our life. There you are behind the prison cell. Help, I need out! You can't get out. Those prison bars are stronger than any adamant. There is no way you can cut them because they're stronger than diamonds. It is impenetrable. You cannot escape. You're doomed, because when the enemy comes in the very end, and he's going to finish you off, because he has legal right to do it, and he's going to relish every minute of it. In strolls your intercessor, your mighty man. And he stands between you and that accuser, and he takes the hit that was rightfully yours. He takes the blow that was intended for you. For me? You want to have me work for you? I want you to work for me. I want you to represent me. Absolutely. Anything I can do for you, just tell me. I need you to go back to that prison cell that I took you out of, because there's a whole bunch more that need to know about me and my love and my truth. Will you go for me? In a heartbeat. I would gladly serve you. Any way you want, any way you ask. I need to forewarn you. I'm going to send you out, and you'll be as sheep among wolves. They'll kill you. They'll destroy you. They'll hate you. They'll persecute you. They will do whatever they can to harm you.
My brethren, be strong in the Most High, and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of Yah, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore, take unto you the whole armor of the Most High, that ye may be able to stand and withstand in the evil day. And having done all to stand, Stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, take the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of the Most High Yah.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 1,
Shalom to the Set Apart family of the Most High Yah. We welcome you to another Sword of the Spirit audio broadcast teaching. We are the servants of Yah, and we greet you once again on this beautiful, beautiful Sabbath day. Habakkuk chapter 1 verse 5 reads, "Look among the nations and behold, and be amazed. Be amazed, for a work is working in your days, which you will not believe, though it be told to you." And so we know the prophet Habakkuk is being told by the Most High that in these days, and we are in these days now, that he is going to be working a work in these last days. And the work that he is performing, many will not believe it, even though it is being told to them. One of his great works, which we are partaking in right now, is his Sabbath. And we just thank you for joining us on today. We greet you once again in the name of our Master, Yeshua HaMashiach. We welcome you to today's 165th audio broadcast teaching. Going to bring in my co-teacher, Shabbat Shalom, sis. How are you?
Shabbat Shalom, sis. I am doing well. And you?
I'm doing great. Doing pretty good. Winter is officially here, so, but I'm not going to go any further than that. I'm okay.
Yes,
you already know why.
Yes. But, I mean, I love winter. I like the snow to see it, just being out in the trenches of it, driving in it.
Yeah.
But I don't like about it because we know some people can't really drive in weather like
some, a lot.
Yes,
a lot of people, yeah. I mean, I like fall. I don't really care for winter because I don't like the snow. I don't like ice. I don't like the freezing temperatures. But I do like the fall, though. I like the
fall is my favorite of them all because of the scenic colors that you get to see with the trees changing and the leaves. So, but, so I am just glad to be here on this set-apart day. And just giving honor to the Most High Yah, just thanking him for considering me and allowing me to just be in his presence on this day. For many went to sleep and did not rise, so I just say Todah Yah.
Yeah, praise Yah. Praise
Yah. So I'm excited.
So you had a pretty good week for the most part.
Yeah, I can't complain. Started out with some kind of little, bug, but
I think that's been going around.
But other than that, I can't complain. I'm just, glad that he kept me safe and protected me and my family, and and just allowed me to just be able to use all my senses and be able to think and just do his will. So I just thank him. Because a lot of people, they wake up, but then sometimes they don't have the mobility of their body function. So I'm
to move, to deal with the small thing. Well, we consider small, and you don't realize it until it's taken away. So those things we consider small are really big, And so we see that
until
all
it's
the
gone,
time.
and then you like, wow, you smell, now I can't, So just having those functions. So, just giving praise to the Most High. And I always look forward to the Sabbath. I can't wait to that day. So, just to be in, just to have a rest day from the world.
A continuous rest. Yeah. We long for the continuous rest, so definitely.
Yes.
Well, so we're going to get into our 165th audio broadcast teaching. It is entitled Tempting the Messiah. Once again, I had a different teaching that I was going to do, and I had last week, I had my notes all together, and that was not the direction that he took me in. And so today's teaching is definitely Rock inspired. And so while we all have the choice and we all love the freedom to choose, that's, this whole nation in itself, and what their Babylonian statue, ISIS, that they have up, what they call the Statue of Liberty. Everything is about being independent, having the freedom to choose. And we know that we are given that freedom to choose, but not really if you're Israel, okay? And so sometimes the freedom of the choice of freedom, or the freedom to choose, while it can be pleasing, many fail to realize that freedom in it of itself, it comes with a responsibility and it comes with a price. And so believers, and when you go to 1 Corinthians 10 and 9, believers are given a very strong warning, and that warning is, do not tempt the Messiah. Okay, and so what does it mean when it says do not tempt the Messiah? What does it mean to tempt the Messiah? And does the Bible leave clues as to how we can tempt Yeshua? And so another thing I want to point out today is, because Israel was mentioned, okay, in 1 Corinthians 10 and 9. And so today we're going to go back and revisit those specific acts that the chosen people of Yah participated in, that not only Paul said in 1 Corinthians 10 and 9, tempted the Messiah, but also those specific acts that led to the destruction of 24,000 people, okay? We're going to find out what lessons we can learn from the mistakes of our forefathers. And even though the title of today's teaching and what I'm saying doesn't seem like, this seems like a light subject today, please do not take it lightly. Today's teaching is going to be a powerful, Yah-inspired teaching. It is very important, and particularly, for many of us, these acts that caused 24,000 of our forefathers to fall, we must learn from our past mistakes and mistakes of our forefathers, because us not learning is the reason why we're still over here now, suffering those curses. And so today we're going to not only reveal what it means to tempt the Messiah, but we're going to also expose an act of idolatry worship that many married and unmarried couples unknowingly commit on a regular basis, okay? And we don't know that it is worship, okay? And so today's teaching, you don't want to miss it. And this is a teaching that you're going to want to listen in its entirety, and specifically, definitely stay to the end, because I have a very powerful audio testimony that I'm going to have you listen to at the end. Powerful. And so we're going to get started with today's teaching. We do not have a State of Body panel discussion, and we do not have a special guest today. And so before I get into today's teaching, we're going to begin with recapping last week's 164th teaching, which was entitled The Barren Woman. This teaching was such a blessing. We talked about the gift of motherhood, and but more importantly, we visited some of the scriptures and brought forth a major revelation and the true understanding of Isaiah 54 and 1. We know that many women in the Bible struggled with infertility. We read about these barren women in the scriptures, but if you didn't listen to it, I don't want to do a spoiler alert, but I'll leave you with this question. What if all those stories that you read about, in the scriptures about all those barren women, what if all those stories about the barren women in the scriptures were never about infertility. Okay? And so last week we revisited the stories. We unveiled the true reason behind the barren women in the scripture. When I tell you that this teaching was such a blessing, I truly do mean it was a blessing. So if you missed it last week, the 164th audio broadcast teaching entitled The Barren Woman, please go back via the Daughter of Yah YouTube channel. It's our 164th lesson, and you can listen to it in its entirety. And please, for those of you who have listened to it, if it was a blessing, if you learned something, please comment. We love to see get feedback from you regarding our teachings, because it helps us, do better. Or if you were blessed by it, anything. We appreciate, having an interaction with people who do listen to the teachings, or if it bless you. And so if you, we're interested in knowing what were your thoughts on that teaching, because I know I learned a lot and it was a blessing to me. And so I'm going to, before I get started, I wanted to take you to a particular scripture. Quickly, I want you to go to, let me see here, Matthew 24. Go to Matthew 24. We're going to do that right quick. And I have an audio clip that I want to play. So while I'm uploading this, I want you to go to Matthew 24. Okay, and so we're going to, before we read Matthew 24, I want to listen to this audio clip, and then we'll come right back.
No matter how much you love someone, no matter how much someone loves you, if anyone causes you to detach yourself from Elohim, if they are not of the good seed, if they don't recognize Abba, Father, Yahweh as their headship, if they're not being taught by Elohim, you must detach yourself from them. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're not capable of being a disciple, Talmid, Lamud, of Yeshua.
All right, and so just listening to the clip, and just as far as just putting it out there, are you willing to be a disciple? And discipleship is not about groups. It's not about partnerships. It's about following whatever it is that he has asked you to do. We're going to read Matthew 24, 1 through 13. And it's about, if need be, you being willing to detach yourself from those things, those people, those situations that are not of Yah. And if you have difficulty detaching yourself from things and people that are not of Yah, then there is some really hard soul searching that you as a believer must do, because if there's something or someone or a situation that you cannot let go of, that you cannot detach yourself from, especially if he is calling you, and he's calling you to the work, he's calling you to get rid of something in your life, or he's calling you to come up, whatever he has commissioned you to do. And what the gentleman was saying in the clip, that anything that is not of him and you are unwilling, to detach yourself, or you find it difficult, then you're not ready to be a disciple. Because in this walk, we have to be willing to give up anything, any situation, anyone, detach ourselves from, if this is going to impede or stumble or cause you to stumble in your walk. And so when Yeshua was speaking to, I can't remember the man or particular scripture, but I'm just thinking off the top of my head, where he said, he said, follow me. And he says, okay, well, no, because he's like, drop all you have. I need you to follow me. He's like, well, no, I got to go see about my father. He's sick. What that was delay. And so he was not pleased with that. He was not pleased with that. When he asked, when he says, if you put your mother, father, sister, brother, children, anyone before him, you're not worthy of being in the kingdom, and there's no way that you can be a disciple because you are attached to people, or you're attached to things, or you're attached to situations when the only thing that you should not be willing to detach yourself from is Yah himself. And so what the gentleman was saying is, if you're not willing to forsake all, doesn't matter if it's a person, if it's a situation, it's a thing, you're not ready to be a disciple. So let's look at Matthew 24. And it's a reason why I'm starting with this, because this whole teaching I was being led. And at first I'm like, okay, well, I'm wondering how is this going to fit? But it's not for me to wonder how it's going to fit. He knows how everything is going to fit and the purpose in which he has it. And so Matthew 24, verse 1 says, and going out, Yeshua left the sanctuary, and his disciples came to show him the construction of the sanctuary. So they're in awe of this beautiful sanctuary, the building, just like our people are today. But Yeshua said to them, do you not see all these things? Truly I say to you, there will not at all be left one stone on a stone, which in no way will not be thrown down. So he's saying to them, look, don't admire this sanctuary, because it's not going to be one stone that's left, because all of this, he said, is going to be destroyed. Enjoy it now while you're looking at it, because this is going to be destroyed. It's not going to be here. Okay? And as he was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to Yeshua privately, saying, tell us when these things will be. What is the sign of your coming and the end of the age? So the disciples wanted to know, when is it going to be the end of the world? When are we going to know when it's time for you to return and come back? And answering, Yeshua said to them, see that no man deceives you. For many will come in my name, saying, I am the Messiah, and they will cause many to be deceived. So notice something. The disciples came to Yeshua in verse 3, and they asked him, what is the sign of your coming and the end of the age? When will we know that it is time for you to return? And when will we know when it's the end of this world? When will we know? Before he answered their question, what was the first thing that he said to them? Look at verse 4. Yeshua said to them, see that no man deceives you. He says, for many will come in my name, many, and they will say, I am the Messiah. And he says, and they will cause many to be deceived. So the first thing he said is, look, see to it that no man deceives you. The first thing he told him was, don't be deceived. Because, as he said in the end of verse 5, because many will be deceived. Don't be deceived, because many will be deceived. They will cause many to be deceived. Who he's talking about? These false prophets, these false teachers. These people who are coming in his name saying, thus says Yah, he has not said. He says, they will cause many to be deceived. So he said, don't let this be you. Don't let this be you, where someone can come along and you admiring, just like you looking at this building. He had to put their thinking back into the proper perspective. They were worried about the outside of the building. Admire, oh, look at these stones. This is what our people do today. Oh, look at him. He got a beard. Oh, look at him. He got tassels. Oh, look at her. Her head is wrapped up. Oh, she got so-called Hebrew garments. Oh, he can speak Hebrew. Oh, look at this church. Look at this beautiful building. Look. Everything is the lust of the eyes. We're worried about the outside. We're worried about the outside, how good things look or appear to look on the outside. But he's worried about what's on the inside. He's like, look, before I answer your question and tell you what's going to happen and how you're going to, the signs of you knowing when I'm going to return and the signs of knowing when it is the end of the world, before I answer that, I need you to refocus your thoughts. I need you to make sure that you're not deceived, because many people are deceived by the things that they are seeing. It appears it looks good. Oh, it looks good, so it must be good. He said, no. See that no one deceives you. Don't let this be you. Don't let this be you who are looking at the outward appearance, but you're not looking at the heart of the person. You're not paying attention to how the person is walking, how they're living their life. You're just paying attention to what things look like, what the things that they say out of their mouth. Do their actions line up with what they're saying? Because he says many will be deceived by this. Many will be deceived by the signs that they see. He's saying don't get caught up in that. So I wanted to bring that out. That was the first thing that, and I've read this a zillion times, and it was just brought to my attention while I was studying. He didn't answer them right away. When they wanted to know about the signs and the end of the age, he said, look, the first thing he said, don't be deceived. Because many will be deceived. Verse 5. Now, verse 6. For you are bound to hear of revolutions, wars, and rumors of wars. He says, watch out and do not be dismayed, meaning don't be disturbed. He says, for it is necessary that all these things happen. But it is not the end yet. So all the things that you're seeing going on now, like all those fires going on and destroying the whole town in California, he says, when I have destroyed the city, he said, is it not I that have done it? We did the lesson on the four source judgments of Yah. Okay, that was one of the four source judgments of Yah. Okay? And so he says, for nation will be rise against nation. So there will be nation against nation and kingdom against kingdom. And there will be famines and plagues and earthquakes against many different places. We're seeing these things happening now. But all these things are the beginning of sorrow. He said, these are just the beginning of sorrow. He says, then they will deliver you up to affliction and will kill you. You will be hated by all nations because of my name. And then many will be offended, and they will deliver up one another and will hate one another. And look at verse 11. And many false prophets will be raised and will deceive many. Please believe the Messiah when he's telling you. He's already said it, that there will be many false prophets raised up in these last days, and many will be deceived. That's why before he answered and told them these are the signs, before he told them that it was going to be nations rising against nations and famines and plagues, what's the first thing he said in verse 4? See that no man deceives you, because many will be deceived. Verse 11, many false prophets will be raised and will deceive many. And because lawlessness, meaning they are without the Torah, they do not keep the Torah, they don't keep the laws of Yah, because remember the Christian church teaches that is done away with. He says because lawlessness shall have multiplied, okay, meaning abound, is going to be multiplied, it's going to increase. Lawlessness is going to increase. That's the whole point of the purge, okay? The love of many will grow cold. But he says, but the one who endures to the end, that one will have eternal life. So you have to endure all of the things that are to come that the Messiah speaks of in Matthew 24. And so, again, the attachments have to be severed if it is going to cause you to stumble. If it is not of Yah, if they be not of Yah, we do not believe him when he tells us to come out from among them. We say, oh, well, we can't come. I've been knowing her since I was little. Oh, we grew up. Oh, we played in the sandbox when we were 2. You know, oh, this is my mother. Oh, this is my father. This is my brother. This is my child. He said, come out from among them. He didn't say, oh, come out from among them, but if it's your family, stay close and closely knit and attached. He didn't say, oh, well, this was your best friend and you grew up together since you were 2 and you played in the sandbox and you 2 fell out at the same time, then you can stay attached. No, he says, come out, because light has no association with darkness. And so many will be deceived. For one, even when a true prophet comes to them, They'll listen to the false prophet over the true prophet because the false prophet will say something that sounds pleasing to their spirit. I know people who have not been able to be, Yah has called them, but they can't rise to where he's calling them to because they can't let go of their family members. They can't let go of situations that he has told them to come out of. And so the detachment will cause many to be deceived. And many people do not believe this because feelings and emotions are going to be the very thing that Satan uses to play on people's heartstrings to cause them to delay in doing the things that Yah has told them to do. I'm reading Matthew 7:15. It says, beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravaging wolves. So he's saying, beware of false prophets. They look like sheep, clothing on the outside. They got the beautiful buildings like the disciples were admiring. He says, but inwardly they're ravaging wolves. You got all of these mega pastors, have all these beautiful congregations and sanctuaries on the outside like T.D. Jakes and Joyce Meyer and Creflo Dollar and Joe Osteen. The beautiful sanctuaries and beautiful, look like it's fit for a king on the outside. But then when you get in the inside, they're nothing but ravagous wolves coming in. It's looking like they got on sheep clothing, but they're wolves. I'm reading these quickly, and then I'll get to the one that I want you to go to, Colossians 2:8. And then I'm going to read 8 and 20. Colossians 2:8 says, see to it that no one takes you captive through philosophy and empty deception, which are based on human traditions and the spiritual forces of the world rather than on the Messiah. Many people are caught up in the philosophy of men, the traditions of men that the Messiah said, many of you full well put my word aside so that you can follow after the traditions of men. You'd rather keep doing the traditions of men and the things they tell you to do rather than what I told you to do. Colossians 2:20 in that same chapter. If you have died with the Messiah to the spiritual forces of the world, why then are you acting as if you still belong to the world, submitting to its regulations? So why are many of us who are saying that we belong to the Messiah, why are you still acting like you belong to the world? Nothing about you has changed. You're still living your life like an unrepentant sinner, yet you go to church every Sunday. And many of you go to church on the Sabbath, you go in these Hebrew communities, but yet you got your hair wrapped up, got on your Hebrew garment, but you're lifting up your Hebrew garment and unwrapping your head to go lay down with somebody that you're not married to, because fornication is a big thing amongst the children of Israel, and it is even greater today probably than it was back then. He says, why do you act like you still belong to the world? It's submitting to its regulations. You'd rather obey the laws of the land, and then when we come tell you have to keep the Torah of the law, oh, well, we ain't got to do that. Well, but you can go out here and obey Caesar's laws, right? Quickly go to Ephesians 5, verse 6 through 17. Ephesians 5, verse 6 through 17. Ephesians 5, verse 6 says, let no man deceive you with empty words. This is the same thing that the Messiah told the disciples when they were admiring the buildings in Matthew 24. He said, look, don't let no man deceive you. It's the same thing that he said in Matthew 7 and 15. It's the same thing that Paul said in Colossians 2 and 8. That no man take you captive with philosophy and vain deceit, empty deception. That you following after human traditions and the spiritual forces of this world rather than the Messiah. Well, when we go to Ephesians 5 and 6, it's saying the same thing. Let no man deceive you with empty words. When you see something repeatedly when you see things are redundant or repeating in Scripture, it is trying to hit home to you something that you really need to take heed to. And in this case, it's saying, let no man deceive you with empty words. For through these things, the wrath of Yah comes on the sons of disobedience. Then do not be partakers with them. When it means to be a partaker with them, that means you're sharing in with them. Whatever they're doing, you're doing. You attaching yourself to them when he's saying, I want you to come out from among them. Verse 8, for you were then in darkness, he says, but now you're light in the Master. You're light now. You're no longer walking in darkness, living your life as if he doesn't exist. So because you are a new creation and a new creature in the Messiah, that you have repented, okay? You have repented, and you have been water baptized, okay? And you are now growing and studying and developing in him. You're on the road, okay? You're on the road to salvation. You are currently being saved. So why, if you're currently being saved, why are you going back acting like you're not saved? Why are you going back with those people who are still in darkness? There is no association. This is the hardest thing that many of us deal with, is detaching ourselves when he has said it a billion times in Scripture, and then we still don't want to believe, oh, it's not going to affect me. It will affect you. There's no way that you can continue to be in the company of those in darkness and not have it rub on you. At some point, you're going to compromise. At some point, you're going to lay your sword down. At some point, the things that you were doing, you're going to stop doing because they're not doing it. So you're not being around people who are motivating you to continue to do the things that are of him. I know for a fact, and I won't speak on this teaching about it, but I know for a fact, because that has affected me at times. Being around people who are not doing the things that are of Yah will eventually affect you, and it will impede what you're doing. It will. And so he says, for the fruit of the Spirit, on verse 9, Ephesians 5 and 9, for the fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness and righteousness and truth. And you must, look at verse 10, you must discern what is acceptable before our Master. So you have to discern. This is a command to discern what is acceptable before our Master. Everything that we want to do is not acceptable before our Master. The world will tell you that it's okay for two men to get married. Okay? Yah has said no. So if you continue to say yes to the things that Yah has said, you're still in the world. I don't care how much you go to church. If you still believe that it is okay for two men and two women to be married, you're still in darkness. Okay? You might not be doing it, but you're thinking in your heart. You have said in your heart it is okay. And what you think in your heart is a sin against Yah. It is. You can sin in your heart because your heart is who you are. And eventually it is what you will do. And so when he says you must discern what is acceptable before our Master, when he says let no man deceive you with empty words, look, listen, this is not a trick question. This is not a trick statement. He has not left this up for assumption. His word is not left up for assumption or left up for chance. Our Father Yah has made it clear what he accepts and what he will not accept in his word. He has made it clear. He has made it clear about fornication. He has made it clear about adultery. He has made it clear about idolatry. He has made it clear about bearing false witness. He has made it clear about a man laying down with a man as if he's laying with a woman and vice versa, and bestiality. He's made it clear about the foods that he has made acceptable to eat and those that he has not made acceptable to eat, like shrimp, pork, crab, and lobster. That is not food. He says that these are an abomination. But we don't want to accept it. We don't want to accept it. He has made it clear in his word what is acceptable. Because Ephesians 5 and 10 says you must discern. When you have discernment, you have wisdom. You must discern what is acceptable before our Master. You have the ability to recognize right from wrong, righteousness versus unrighteousness, good versus evil. You were able to discern that. Okay, he's made it clear. We just don't want to accept it. We want to make excuses. Oh, I know he said this, but no, he meant that. No, he meant what he said. So let's continue reading Ephesians 5 and 11. Listen to what he says. I'm going to go to 10 again. You must discern what is acceptable before our master and have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather condemn them. He says don't fellowship with those who are doing things in darkness, but rather condemn them. He says, for it is shameful even to speak of the things being done by them in secret. But all things being condemned are exposed by the light. So if you are of the light and you're around somebody who's fornicating, you are exposing them. Every time they get around you, they feel uncomfortable. And that is the way that it is supposed to be if you are a true believer and follower of our Messiah. When you get around sinners and unrepentant sinners, they should feel uncomfortable around you. You should have them stumbling over their words, changing the way that they act around you, because they know that you're not going to tolerate any of that foolishness that they do around other people. Okay? And so when you're around people that is of the world and they can still curse around you and they don't stop themselves or correct themselves when they're around you, if they do things and talk about things with other people, but I mean they can if they can be around you and not stop themselves or have some type of restraint about certain conversations about things they may have indulged in, maybe they fornicated last night, they're not going to have conversations with you about how good the sex was. You know why? Because they know that you don't agree with fornication. You understand what I'm saying? And so, because why? Because it is a shame, Yah says, to even speak of the things that they do in secret. But when they come into your presence, verse 13 says, all things being condemned, meaning all those things that are condemned by Yah and are condemned in his word, they are exposed by the light and are clearly revealed. For everything having been revealed is light. Because of this, he says, arise, sleeping ones, and rise from the dead ones. So he said, look, wake up. Those of you who are sleeping, get up. This is not time to sleep. Rise up. Wake up. And he says, and the Messiah will give you light. Then watch carefully how you walk. Not as those that are unwise, but as those who are wise. If you are wise, then walk like you're wise. Act like you're wise. Walk circumspectly, meaning you are very careful of the things that you do, the things that come out of your mouth, the things that you think in your mind. That's why when things come in your mind, you need to cast down every high thing, every imagination, every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of Yah. Then you bring into captivity every thought to the obedience of the Messiah. Even your thoughts can have an effect on you in your life. And so he says, be careful how you think. Be careful how you walk. Be careful how you talk. Be careful how you treat others. Be careful of the people that you have in your circle, people that you attach yourself to. Be careful of the things that you participate in. All of those things matter. That's what he's telling. When you walk in circumspectly, you know why? Because you have to guard your salvation. You have to guard your salvation. You have to guard it like it's your very soul depends on it, because it does. That's why it says work out your salvation with fear and tremble. When you are working out your salvation, and I'm not going to get into this because this was going to be a lesson, but when you are working out your salvation with fear and trembling, you are very much aware of where you are and what time it is, what's going on, and what you need to do to keep yourself on track. Because, look, that's like somebody who has started the race for you. He started the race, and he's giving you the baton. Now, go work out your salvation. Go. He's pushing you. Go, little birdie. Go. Go and fly. I need you to go. Finish the work that I started. That's what he needs you to do. Finish the work that he started. Work out your salvation. Get busy. Because you have to endure. That's pretty much what this is about. Enduring the race. And all the traps that are being set, all the stumbling blocks that are set. It's just like a person, you in a race, and he told you to go work out your salvation, but you got things that are going to trip you up. You running a race, and you got stuff that's weighing you down. You running a race. It's hot as I don't know what, because whether you want to know it or not, we are living, this is a living hell that we living in this world, okay? It's 100 degrees. You on the track. You got a mink coat on. You got on a hat. You got about 3-4 coats on, hats, gloves. You got on boots. You got on thermal, what they call long johns, 2-3 shirts. You got all of these clothes on you. All these things, heavy things that are weighing you down. How far do you think you're going to get in the race with all these things on you, all these things that are heavy, that are weighing you down, that's going to cause you to pass out? There's going to be a stumbling block. You got on boots that got strings to them. The strings, they're on the ground. You got on clothing that's dragging off. If you got anything loose while you trying to run, you got shoestrings or you got clothing that's hanging down, and it's too. Guess what's going to happen? You're going to do what? You're going to trip. You're going to trip. If you got too many things on that's weighing you down and you don't want to take the coat off, you get ready to pass out and not make it to the finish line. You got all these things on you, and you like, oh no, I can't let this go. This is my favorite coat. Oh, I can't let these go. I had these shoes since I was, I was in high school. I can't let go. Take this hat off. My hair not combed. You got all these things in your life weighing you down, where you can't even move. You can't even run the race. You can't even do the work of the harvest. You got all these things that's going on around you. And then you wonder why you on the track, but you ain't moving nowhere. You ain't going nowhere. You're not going nowhere. The race is on. This is a timed race. This is not a race where you can finish whenever you want. Remember the foolish virgins. 5 were wise, 5 were foolish. The foolish virgins had to go back and get more oil. What happened when they got back? Bam! The wedding has began. The door is shut. I'm sorry, you can't come in. It's too late. It's too late. Take off the coat. Get rid of it. What did he say? If you put mother, father, sister, brother, if it's things that you can't attach yourself from, the audio clip what we heard in the beginning, you can't be a disciple if you're not willing to detach your things from those things, those people, those situations that are not of Yah. You can't do it. You can't do it because it's going to be a stumbling block. You know the things that have been a stumbling block. Anybody who's listening, you know. You and Yah know more than anything. He's asking you to take the coat off. Take off the boots. Take off the shoes that got the shoestrings that you keep tripping over. Take off your favorite jeans or your favorite hat that your grandmother gave you when you was 20 years old. It's weighing you down. Many of the things that our forefathers handed down to us were lies, like he tells you in Jeremiah. Okay? Our forefathers. This was not the Gentiles' forefathers. This was Israel. Our forefathers have taught us lies. They have handed us down lies. They handed us Christmas. They handed us Easter. They handed us Halloween. They handed us Thanksgiving, all these things, birthdays. They've handed us all these things that are not of him. These things have weighed us down. It has stopped and stunted our growth in the Messiah, where we're thinking that we're a true disciple, and then many of us are going to find out on the day of judgment that we were not a disciple, that we never knew him. Take the coats off. Take the shoes off, the boots off. This is a race. It is hot. It's 100 degrees, and you need to be able to get rid of all the things that's holding you back, that's weighing you down, that has been a stumbling block to you in your life, so that you can freely and quickly run this race without any delay and be on time. I'm hoping that I'm making myself clear. Everything I'm telling you right now is the Ruach speaking. This is not in my notes. This is things that, as I'm hearing it, I'm speaking it because somebody needs to hear this. Because this was not my message for today. This is not even the last 5 minutes that I've been speaking. It's not even in my notes. And so we have been called, again, to walk circumspectly. Let me go back to verse 15. So he says, then watch how carefully you walk, not as unwise, but as wise ones, redeeming the time because the days are evil. For this reason, do not be foolish, but understanding what the will of Yah is. We must understand what the will of Yah is. When we read Ephesians 5, it gives us three things. Verse 6, 10, and 17 stands out. Verse 6 says, let no man deceive you with empty words. Verse 10 says, you must discern what is acceptable before our master. And verse 17 says, you must understand what the will of Yah is. Discern what is acceptable and understand what his will is. We're not talking about our will. What his will. Yeshua said, not my will, but your will. Whatever it is his will. Sometimes our will is not what is his, and I'm learning that every day. So we have been called to walk circumspectly, and we have been called to test the spirit to see if it be of Yah. Many of you, every time somebody throw a plate of food at you, you think that you got to eat it. I'm using a plate of food because this doctrine, that many of these false doctrines that people are eating up, it's like food. You're eating it up. It's being fed to you. He talks about his sheep not being fed. The pastor not feeding his sheep. Okay? Just because somebody throw a plate of food at you doesn't mean that you have to eat it. You can turn it down. You can reject it. Many of us love the world so much that we never stop to think if what we're doing or what we're involved in or what we're participating in or who we may have attached ourselves to, is this of him? Is this of you? Is this of you? We never stop to ask him, is this of you? Do you want me involved in this? What I'm doing, is this of you? If what I'm thinking, is this of you? And so, how do we protect ourselves? Go to Ephesians 6. We're going to read 11 through 17. Ephesians 6, 11 through 17. It says, put on the whole armor of Yah so that you will be able to stand against the strategies of the devil. For our conflict is not with flesh and blood, but with principalities and with those in authority, and with the possessors of this dark world. So there are principalities and those who are of darkness that have authority. So we know that there are principalities. They have people that are of authority and principalities all over. And they have been given assignments on what to do, who to deceive, how they're going to deceive. They have a whole plan on how they plan on taking out the people of Yah. Okay, Ephesians 6 is very clear. And it says that there are evil spirits that are beneath heaven. So many of the things that are all of the wickedness that's going on in this world, we're looking at the people, but realize that it is a demon that is in that person that is really in control. Okay? Why? Look at verse 13. Because of this, take up the whole armor of Yah, that you will be able to resist the evil one. And being prepared, you shall prevail. You will not be able to resist the enemy and be prepared to prevail against him if you hold hands with him and hold hands with the people that serve him. Once again, you have to detach yourself. Verse 14, then stand firm, having girded your loins about with truth, having put on the breastplate of righteousness. The truth is that having your loins girded about with truth. This right here is the word. I have my loins, the innermost part of my gut, girded about with truth. We all know that your entire immune system is in your gut. If you get your gut together, you can get your entire immune system together. Have on the breastplate of righteousness. Okay? This is something that protects your chest. Righteousness. His word is righteousness. He is righteousness. And defending your feet with the preparation of the good news of peace. Your feet is what keeps you standing. It keeps you standing firm. You're not wavering back and forth. You know what the good news is. You're not going out preaching a different good news, or what you call the gospel. And then he says, above all, taking up the shield of faith. The shield is something that you use to protect. Okay? When the enemy comes with his darts, when he comes with his false prophets and his false doctrines, you are able to fight them off. You have up your shield of faith, because no one can shake you. No one can take you away with the love of Yah when he comes with life. And we have a very powerful testimony that I want you to please stay around for at the end. It was very powerful. It brought me to tears, and I had to, I wanted to put this on here. But life will hit you, and there are many things that will cause for some to take them away from the love of Yah, because they can't deal with when life comes, when the enemy comes. Their faith is going to be shattered, and they will no longer believe, and they will turn away from him. But he says those that turn away, they turn away so that it will be known that they were never of us. They left us because they were never of us. Above all, taking up the shield of faith, with which you will be able to quench all the flaming darts of the enemy. Because the enemy is going to come, and he's going to throw those darts. So if your faith is strong, you are going to just duck and dodge, and you're going to protect yourself, because no matter what he's throwing, you trust in Yah, and you believe what his word says, and you're not going to be shaken because of what's going on with the world. And again, this testimony I'm going to play at the end is going to be powerful. Also, put on the helmet of salvation and take up the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of Yah. And so the head of the helmet of salvation is you. Who is the head? Who is our salvation? Is it not Yeshua? Okay, who is the head? Okay, because the head doesn't it direct the body? The head directs the body. Yeshua is the head of the body, right? He is the head of the body. I was speaking physical body, but now I'm taking it spiritual. Your physical head directs and guides your body. Your head, who Yeshua is the salvation of Yah. That's what his name means, the salvation of Yah, or Yah saves. Okay, Yeshua the Messiah, he is the head of the body. Okay, and if he is your head, then that means that, and if, like many people say, your Lord, he directs you. If he's the head, then he should be directing your life, and your life should look like you're being born into the image of he who created you. There should be some changes. There's development, there's growth. Do you understand what I'm saying? And take up the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of Yah. So this word is the sword that you use to fight. When false prophets come to me, I don't have to go pick up no gun or knife. I'm picking up the word. Yeshua is the word, right? And remember in Revelations, when they come up against him in the end to try to come and fight Satan and his army, all he's going to do is just kill them all by the sword. Open up his mouth. That's it. Because it kills. And so now that I have laid that foundation, because I know many of you like, well, when's she going to get to this? This don't sound like tempting the Messiah. All of those things were necessary. So now let's go to the scriptural verse for today's teaching. Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 10, and we're going to read, let's start reading at 1, okay? I'm going to read at 1. We're going to go 1 through 11, okay? 1 Corinthians chapter 10, 1 through 11. And we're going to begin at 1. I'm just giving you a second to get there. 1 Corinthians 10, verse 1. And I do not want you to be ignorant, brothers. This is the Apostle Shaul or Paul, and he is speaking. And many people thought that he was a Paul to the Gentiles. Remember, there's two different Gentiles that are being spoken of in what you call the New Testament, okay? These are the Israelite strangers. These were the descendants of those who fell in the wilderness, okay? All right? And the first verse will tell you this. 1 Corinthians 10 and 1. And I do not want you to be ignorant, brothers, that our fathers were all under the cloud. Okay, whose fathers were under the cloud? There were no Gentiles. There were no non-Israelite Gentiles' fathers that was under the cloud. They all passed through the sea. Weren't those the Israelites that passed through the sea? Weren't those their fathers that went under the cloud? He called them brothers. Okay? Paul was from the house of Judah, from the tribe of Benjamin. He said all our brothers were under the cloud. Remember, Yeshua. And remember, and I'm not going to get off of this, if you don't know who Yeshua is, okay, but remember, Yah was with them. He followed them by a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night, okay? He was with them when they passed through the sea and the sea was opened up. So who did this happen to? Were these not the Israelites? So who is Paul talking to? That's another story. If you don't know who are the grafted in Gentiles, please go back to the Daughter of Yah channel and look at Who Are the Gentiles, part 2 and 3, and that will clear up the whole thing. It's a 3-part series. If you're new in the truth and you don't know that we're Israel, I would suggest that you watch all 3 so that it can make sense. All 3 teachings done by 3 different people were phenomenal teachings, and you will get a very thorough understanding by the end of it, okay? And so 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 1, and I do not want you to be ignorant, brothers, that all our fathers were all under the cloud, and all passed through the sea, meaning the Red Sea, and all were baptized to Moses in the cloud and in the sea. So we know this right here, that this is not talking about New Testament Gentiles that never knew him. He's talking about their forefathers that got baptized by Moses, okay, in the cloud and the sea. Those were Israelites. And he says, and they all ate the same spiritual food. What spiritual food? We're talking about the manna that they ate while they were in the wilderness. See how important it is to just really understand the word of Yah and really read for yourself. Many of us, and I've been in church all my life and never paid attention to that. And all drank the same spiritual drink, from they drank of the spiritual rock following, and that rock was the Messiah. The Blue Letter Bible for the rock that they said was a Messiah, it says, is a metaphor, meaning a man like a rock, by reason of his firmness and the strength of their soul, the strength of soul. And so where it says that the Messiah was the rock, it was basically saying that the Messiah was the strength of their soul. He was the strength. That's where you get to saying, I can do all things through the Messiah who strengthens me. Blue Letter Bible tells you that the rock that is being mentioned of in 1 Corinthians 10, verse 4, means the strength of their soul. And it lets you know that it was a man like a rock. Okay? Let's go to verse 5. It says, yet Yah was not pleased with most of them, for they were scattered in the deserted places. But these things became an example for us, so that we will not be lusting after evil, even as those indeed lusted. So verse 5 says that Yah was not pleased with most of them. And he said that they were all scattered. Okay, they were scattered. And he says, but these things became an example for us. So we're going to go over those examples that the things that happened to our forefathers. He said that these were an example, so that what? We would not be lusting after evil as they did. So we're going to go over those examples because we need to learn from the mistakes of our forefathers. I asked that question at the beginning of this teaching before I got started teaching about what can we learn from the mistakes of our forefathers, okay? Because we know that we have been taught lies, okay? Verse 7, neither be idolaters, even as some of them, as it has been written. So they were lusting after evil, okay, as it says in verse 6. They were committing idolatry. It says, even as some of it, as it has been written, the people sat down to eat and drink and rose up to play. Well, highlight that, because we're going to go to the scriptures that show what were they doing when they sat down to eat, to drink, and rose up to play. What were they doing? Because the scriptures tells us that they were committing idolatry. So what were they doing? Verse 8, we're going to go to those scriptures in a minute. Verse 8, nor should we commit fornication, as some of them fornicated, and 23,000 fell in one day. So the Apostle Paul is telling us that Yah was not pleased with our forefathers that were in the wilderness. Most of them, he said, they were scattered. And what happened to them, he said, was left for us as an example, so that we would not lust after evil. So we know that they were lusting after evil because he said, as they indeed lusted. He said they were idolaters, okay, and it tells you that the people sat down to eat, to drink, and they rose up to play. We're going to go to the precept so we can find exactly what they were doing. So they were lusting after evil. They were committing idolatry. Verse 8 says that they were committing fornication, and because of their idolatry, because of their lusting after evil, and because of their fornication, Paul said 23,000 fell in one day. 23,000 in one day. Let's look at verse 9, because we're really going to be breaking this down. There's so much in this 1 Corinthians 10 that when y'all had me break this down, I had no idea, really what our forefathers was doing. Neither let us tempt the Messiah, as some of them did. So here is our scriptural verse for today's teaching. 1 Corinthians 10 and 9. Neither let us tempt the Messiah. And then it says, as some of them did. So some of our forefathers tempted the Messiah. And it says because of this that they were what? Destroyed by serpents. So they were destroyed by serpents because they tempted the Messiah. Verse 10, neither should you murmur, also as some of them murmur and perish by the hand of the destroyer. So again, they were murmuring and they were complaining. Okay? And all these things happened to those as examples. And it was written for our warning. So again, this is the second time in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, 2 times in this chapter, that is telling us that the things that they did happened, and it was an example. And then look what he said, and it was written for our warning, for those that will come in the end. Are you looking at this? This is, he says, is these examples that we're reading about and the ones we're getting ready to go into now, they were written as a warning for us, those who this would come upon at the end of the age. Are you looking at this? This is for us right now. These examples. So let's break this down. Let's break down 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and 9, where it says, neither let us tempt the Messiah as some did, and because of this tempting that they did, they were destroyed by serpents. So let's go to the account. Let's go to this account that Paul was speaking of. Let's go to Numbers 21 quickly. This is the precept. Numbers 21, verses 2 through 7. Numbers 21, verses 2 through 7. And this is the precept to 1 Corinthians 10 and 7, where it says that the people sat down to eat and drink and rose to play. But no, that's not the precept to that. I'm sorry, that's not the precept to 1 Corinthians 10. I'm getting ready to get to that. I want to go to the account where it says that, and where it says 1 Corinthians 10 and 9, where it says, neither let us tempt the Messiah as some did. Because of it, they were destroyed by the serpents. We need to know, what were they doing? How did they tempt them to the point where that they were destroyed by serpents? Because they were tempting him, along with all the other things that he said was left as an example. So we need to know what they were doing so that we don't get caught tempting Messiah. Many of us may have tempted him and don't even know it. That's why it's important for us to learn from our forefathers. So, Numbers 21, verse 2. And Israel vowed a vow to Yah and said, if you give this people into my hand, then I will exterminate their cities. And Yah listened to the voice of Israel and delivered up the Canaanites. So Yah answered their request. They wanted him to deliver the Canaanites unto them, and Yah utterly destroyed them and their cities. And the name of the place was called Hormah. And they pulled up stakes from Mount Hor by the way to the Red Sea, to go around the land of Edom. And the soul of the people became impatient because of the way. So now they're impatient. Now he don't already giving these people into your hands. Now you worried. Now you complaining about the journey to get there. You know, how ungrateful. How ungrateful. Okay. So, let's go to verse 5. And the people spoke against Yah. Pay attention to what they're doing. And the people spoke against Yah and spoke against Moses. So they're speaking against Yah, they're speaking against Moses. And what are they saying? Why have you brought us out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? Okay, so number one, Yah is not a man that he should lie. He is true. There is no lie in him. What he has said is so. So when you are asking him a question, you're questioning him, and then you're saying that he brought you out to die when that's not what he brought you out for. That's like you calling Yah a liar to his face. That's like you're calling him a liar. Why have you brought us out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? For there is no bread, and there is no water, and our soul hates this light bread. Now, for those of you who listened to the previous lesson we did on man shall not live by bread alone, and the lesson where we talked about the Israelites were complaining and complaining and complaining. This was not about the fact that they didn't like the bread that's sitting in your cabinet. Okay? What they were in essence saying, if you go back and listen to that was a very powerful lesson. Man should not live by bread alone. Yeshua is referred to as the bread of life. Okay, he is the word. He says, if any man is hungry or thirst, then you come to him. You will hunger no more. You will never be thirsty again. Okay. He is the bread of life. He is his word. The word is the bread. He is the bread of life. So when they were saying that we loathe this bread, we hate it. I went into the Blue Letter Bible in Strong Hebrew and broke down what this was really saying. In essence, they were saying, we hate your provision. We hate the Messiah. This is what they were pretty much saying. We reject him. We don't want this. If he's the bread and that came down from heaven, you don't want that. You were, in essence, rejecting salvation. Do you understand? Go back. I'm not getting ready to go and recount the whole man shall not live by bread alone. Go back in the archives. I don't remember which number. I know it was after our 150th show. You have to go back and look. But go back and check that out. The man shall not live by bread alone. But they were mumbling and grumbling and complaining against Yah, complaining about the way. Yeshua is the way. He is the bread. He is the life. He is the bread that came down, the manna that came from. They didn't want it. They didn't want it. They said we hate it. They said our soul hates it. Our soul, not that I don't like bread or I'm allergic to bread. No, my soul. Your soul is the part that goes on living even when you physically die. It was much deeper than what people think. This was not about literal bread. This is the reason why they perished in the wilderness. Okay, they were in essence rejecting our Messiah. That's who they were rejecting and saying they hated. They didn't want it at all. They were saying, our soul hates this light bread. And Yah sent, now some of your Bibles may say venomous snakes or venomous snakes, and we're going to go in this a moment. But the Hebrew Roots Bible reads a little bit different, and I'm going to explain it in a minute. Verse 6, and Yah sent the seraphim in the form of serpents. So the seraphims in the form of serpents among the people, and they bit the people, and many people of Israel died. And the people came to Moses and said, we have sinned. And listen to what they said, how they have sinned. What did they do? For we have spoken against Yah and against you. Pray to Yah, and he shall turn the serpent away from us. And Moses prayed on behalf of the people. So the sin of the people was the fact that they were speaking against Yah and they were speaking against Moses, okay? And so when it comes to the word seraphim, okay, SERAPHAIM or SERAPHIM, as we're going to see in the Blue Letter Bible. Many of the Bibles are not saying this. It's used in the Hebrew Roots Bible, and that's why I love the Hebrew, because sometimes you understand it from the Greek. It's not giving you the correct interpretation of what is being spoken of, but it says in the Hebrew Roots Bible, we do not find seraphim in the King James Version or any other biblical translation. I know because I was looking for it, and I could not find it. All of the other versions, including the KJV, says that Yah sent poisonous or venomous snakes. So some of your scriptures are going to say that Yah sent poisonous snakes or venomous snakes or fiery serpents, depending on the version that you are reading from. Okay? Now, with the Blue Letter Bible, I want to bring out one thing that I noticed. When I went to the Blue Letter Bible for serpents, okay, I just said, well, let me just use what, the majority of them have. For serpents, they gave seraphim. So it was interesting because the same thing that's in the Hebrew Roots Bible, the Blue Letter Bible says for serpents, where your scriptures may say that Yah sent poisonous serpents or poisonous snakes, it says in the Blue Letter Bible for serpents, it says seraphim. And let me read what it says. It says serpent, fiery serpent, poisonous serpent, fiery from burning effects of poison. So what he sent was something that was going to poison them. That's the reason why they died, okay, because they were complaining against Yah, complaining against Moses. They were rejecting what he had provided for them. They hated him. They were saying, we hate your provisions. We hate your way. We don't like this life. And it says our soul for you to just say, well, I don't like something, when you say my soul hates this bread, that's like what everything that's in you. Like, he's probably like, are you kidding me after what I just done for this stiff-necked generation? Okay. And so he sent the seraphim, it says in Hebrew Roots Bible, in the form of a serpent. Look, now the Blue Letter Bible for serpent, it says seraphim. But let me read what it says. It's for seraphim, seraphim. It says a majestic being with 6 wings, human hands, or voices and attendance upon Yah. So a seraphim is a majestic or angelic being with 6 wings, human hands, and it says also voices and attendance upon Yah. And so basically, I believe that the Hebrew Roots Bible is correct, is giving a correct interpretation, giving the accounts of what they did in sinning against Yah and tempting the Messiah. They were using their lips to sin against Yah, because that was the first thing that you see. And when you look at Numbers 21, if you look at verse 7, once they saw that people had died, okay, and that they were being attacked by the serpents, verse 7, they said, we have sinned. We have spoken against Yah, and we have spoken against you. So they are revealing that they are very aware that their sin against Yah was the fact that they spoke against him, okay, and they spoke against Moses, okay. And so the reason why I believe that the Hebrew Roots Bible seraphim is correct, and that in fact the sin was because of what they did using their lips and speaking against them, is a precept that I came across. Go to Isaiah chapter 6, verses 1 through 5, and I'll tell you why. Isaiah chapter 6, verses 1 through 5. Isaiah 6:1. In the year that King Uzziah died, then I saw Yah sitting on a throne, high and lifted up, and his train filled the temple. Above it stood the seraphim. So once again, seraphim is being mentioned. Each one had 6 wings, which 2 he covered his face, and with 2 he covered his feet, and with 2 he flew. And one cried to the other and said, Holy, holy, holy is the Yah of hosts. All the earth is full of his glory. And the doorpost shook from the voice of the one who cried, and the house was filled with smoke. Then I said, Woe to me, for I am cut off, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people of what? Unclean lips. For my eyes have seen the King, Yah of hosts. Then one of the seraphims flew to me with a live coal in his hand, snatched with tongs from the altar. And he touched it on my mouth and said, See, this has touched your lips, and your iniquity is taken away, and your sin is covered. And so the Hebrew Roots Bible gives a summary, and it says that the seraphims were angelic beings such as cherubs or angels. And it says that the word seraphim comes from the verb to burn, and that they were representatives of Yah, and they were used for cleansing. A lot of times the land will vomit the people out, meaning it's cleansing the land because of the sin. And so when the Hebrew Roots Bible says that he sent seraphims in the form of a serpent, these are angelic beings that Isaiah the prophet saw, okay? And he said that he was a man of unclean lips, and that he lived amongst a people, in verse 5, that had unclean lips. Okay? And then those same seraphims came and touched his mouth. They touched his lips and took away the iniquity and told him that his sin was covered. It had to do with what you were speaking. These were the same seraphims that are mentioned and the prophet Isaiah speaks of. This is the reason why I believe that what we witness in Numbers 21, verses 2 through 7, when he sent the seraphim, it says, in the form of a serpent, they were angelic beings. See, that's why I said many of you have unknowingly entertained angels. The people of Yah, after Yah killed many of them because they were sinning against him, because they were speaking against him and speaking against Moses. They were using their what to sin? They were using their lips. The same thing the prophet Isaiah was talking about. Okay, the same thing that the Blue Letter Bible called the serpents seraphims, angelic or majestic beings with 6 wings, hands. Okay, same thing. So again, several of the Israelite sins, when we look at 1 Corinthians chapter 10, and also as we're going to go in a minute, Exodus 32. Many of these things are as left for us as a caution, okay, that we might not fall into the same temptations, okay, that our forefathers did in tempting the Messiah and then lose our soul altogether because of it. And so let's reread 1 Corinthians chapter 10. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, and let's reread. Let's start with verse 5. Yet Yah was not pleased with most of them, for they were scattered in the deserted places. Okay? But these things, they became examples for us so that we will not be lusting after evil, even as those indeed lusted. So, when we get to verse 7, this is the first example that we are going to visit, because we need to know where it says, neither be idolaters, as some of them, as it has been written, it says that the people sat down to eat and drink and rose up to play. When were they doing this? Because the scriptures tell us in 1 Corinthians 10 and 7 that this was idolatry, and our people were doing this. And remember the preceding verse, that this was an example that was left for us so that we won't lust after evil. So where do we find this behavior at? Okay, where they sat down to eat and drink and were merry. Go to, keep your bookmark for 1 Corinthians chapter 10, because we're going to keep going back there. But go to quickly the first precept that shows this behavior, where they rose to drink and be merry. Exodus 32. We're going to read verses 1 through 10. And then 17 through 28. Exodus 32, 1 through 10, and 17 through 28. And the people saw that Moses delayed to come down from the mountain. Okay, so Moses there, he's getting the commandments from Yah, and they can't wait. He's been gone too long for them. Okay, and the people saw that Moses delayed to come down from the mountain. And the people gathered to Aaron, and they said to him, rise up. Make for us gods who may go before our face. As for this Moses, the man who brought us up from the land of Egypt, we do not know what has become of him. And Aaron said to them, break off the rings of gold which are in the ears of your wives and your sons and your daughters, and bring them to me. And all the people broke off the rings of gold in their ears, and they brought to Aaron. And he took them from their hands and formed it with an engraving tool. And he made it a casted calf. And they said, these are your gods, O Israel, who brought you from the land of Egypt. And Aaron saw, and he built an altar before it. And Aaron called and said, a feast to Yah tomorrow. Verse 6. And they rose up early on the morrow, and they offered burnt offerings and brought near peace offerings. And the people sat down to eat and drank, and they drank, and they did what? They rose up to make merry. Is the exact same thing that 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 7 said, neither be idolaters, even as some of them, as it has been written? Anytime when it says it has been written, you're going back to the Torah. We're in the Torah now. In Exodus 32, verse 6, it says they rose up in the morning. It says the people sat down to eat and drink and rose up to make merry. Next to verse 6, in Exodus 32, right next to verse 6, you need to put 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and 7, because this is the precept. This is the precept. 1 Corinthians 10 and 7 is the precept to Exodus 32, 6 and verse 6. The people sat down to eat and drink and rose up to be merry. So they were committing idolatry because they made a golden calf. They made an image, and they started bowing down and worshiping it and reverencing this idol and saying that this was the God that brought us out from Egypt. So this is what they were doing. Yah spoke to Moses, come, go down, for your people whom you caused to go up from Egypt are corrupted. They have quickly turned off from the way which I commanded them. They have made for themselves a casted calf and have bowed down to it and have sacrificed to it. And they have said, these are your gods, O Israel, who brought you up from the land of Egypt. And Yah said to Moses, I have seen this people, and behold, it is a stiff-necked people. And now leave me alone, that my anger may glow against them, that I may consume them, and I will make you a great nation. So Yah was upset. He was like, I am done with these people. Okay? And Yah pleaded, Moses pleaded with Yah to not destroy his inheritance. Go down to verse 17. So Joshua heard the voice of the people in their shouting. They're down there shouting. Just like 1 Corinthians 10 and 7 said, they rose up, made merry. They're having a good old time, playing and everything. So he hears all these people shouting. And Joshua said to Moses, a sound of warning came. He's thinking they in trouble. He's like, wait, they down here screaming, and what's going on? He's like, they in trouble. And he said, this is not a sound of a cry of might, nor is this a sound of a cry of defeat. He's like, ain't nobody hurt. This don't sound like they in pain. This don't sound like they've been defeated in a war, like they crying out to us to come help them. He said, I'm hearing the sounds of singing. This sounds just like what Samuel was talking about the song. Like, well, if you did all that Yah told you to do, what's these animals that I hear in the background? Why do I'm hearing to herd the animal? Like, this is what Moses is saying to Joshua. Look, ain't nothing wrong with them. They haven't been defeated in a war. They're not crying out because they need our help. He said, I'm hearing the sound of singing. Verse 19. And it happened as he came near to the camp and saw the calves and the dances. The anger of Moses glowed, and he threw the tablets from his hands, and he broke them below the mountain. And he took the calf which they had made and burned it with fire and ground it until it was fine. Then he scattered it on the face of the water, and he made the sons of Israel to drink it. And Moses said to Aaron, what has this people done to you that have made you to come on them a great sin? And Aaron said, let not the anger of my master glow. You know the people that this people was evil. So here once again, just like Adam trying to put it off on Eve. Oh, this woman you gave me. Same thing with Samuel saying to Saul. Well, look, the people wanted to show pity. Fearing man instead of fearing Yah. That's the problem. He says, you know these people. Now we got Aaron doing the same thing. These people are evil. Verse 23. And they said to me, make for us a God that we may go down before us. And as for Moses, the man who caused us up to go from the land of Egypt, we don't know what has become of him. So he's running this whole spiel. But when I read it, I'm not reading anything that's showing that he is like delaying at all. He's the one that said, let's make a feast and give me all your jewelry and all of that. So I'm trying to figure out like how Aaron kind of got away with this, but nevertheless, let me keep reading. And verse 25, and Moses saw the people that they were naked, for Aaron had let them naked for scornful shaming among their enemies. Anytime you see naked, remember Adam and Eve, they knew they were naked. That means that they were uncovered. They no longer had a covering. Yah's covering left them. They did not have a covering. And when you are uncovered, you are what? You are naked. They were left naked for scornful shaming among their enemies, okay? So you are ashamed. Once you are left unnaked, once you've been left naked, you are shameful. They were ashamed. That's the reason why Adam and Eve went to go put something on the covering. They were hiding. They were ashamed, okay? Same thing. And Moses stood in the gate of the camp and said, who is for Yah? So now he is getting ready to draw a line in the sand. Notice, back to what I said in the beginning about knowing when it is time to separate. Notice he did not delay and say, let me keep these people in this tent with me. These are my brothers. No. He said, look, I don't got time for this. As for me and my household, we're going to serve Yah. So here's how it's going to be. Because I can't have these idolaters with me. What did he say? Immediately, let's draw the line in the sand. Those of you in verse 26 who are for Yah, meaning you going to serve Yah, come with me. You can come with me. You can reside with me. You can live with me. But he says if those of you are not, and then look, we got to part ways. And it says, so all the sons of Levi, they assembled themselves to him. Verse 27, and he said to them, so says the Most High Yah, Almighty One of Israel. Each one put his sword on his thigh, passed to and fro from gate to gate in the camp, and each one killed his brother. Are you looking at this? Kill your brother. Kill your neighbor. And each one his what? Kindred. I don't care if it's your brother. I don't care if it's your sister. I don't care if it's your mother. I don't care if it's your best friend. He said, look, kill them. Kill them. I don't care. Y'all did not care. We're the only ones that caught up in emotions. He does not have a problem with knocking somebody and cutting you off. He has no detachments when you are walking in unrepentant and open rebellious sin. He's not going to care about, oh, well, that's my mother. Oh, that's my father. Oh, that's my sister. That's my brother. That's my child. No. Immediately when the foolishness went down, they were not allowed to come with him and continue on the journey. Do you understand what I'm saying? They were cut off. There were no attachments. Oh, you're my brother. You're my sister. You're my mother. You're my son. You're my daughter. It was no. This is what he says. Look what he says. Thus says the Most High, Almighty One of Israel. This was from Yah himself. Yah himself. You are looking at it. This is Torah, what I am reading. If it's your brother, if it's your neighbor, if it's your kindred, if they kin to you, that means your blood, it's time to separate. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because you cannot continue to have people in your midst that are disobedient because you are going to have sin fall on the camp. That's the reason why if you was in sin, you had to remain outside. If you had a plague, you were not allowed to reside in the tent. And what we would call a modern day in the house. You got to go because the whole plague is going to, if I let you in here and I let you continue to live with me and you don't want to serve Yah, guess what? You getting ready, the whole plague is getting ready to destroy the whole house. Do you understand what I'm saying? Look at what I'm saying, and this is not me. You looking at the word of Yah for yourself, what he is saying. Look at the examples. Remember, Paul said in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, he said twice in that chapter, these were left as an example for us. Many of you have people in your house that are idolaters, people in your house that are fornicators, people in your house that lust after evil, people in your house that murmur and complain against Yah, that have rejected salvation, yet you want to still remain attached to them. What have you learned so far in these examples that we're looking at right now? Immediately when the idolatry went down, Moses drew the line in the sand. We're going to continue going forth, but I'm not continuing going forth with those of you who are against Yah. I'm not going forth with fornicators. I'm not going forth with idolaters. We're getting ready to cut it off right now. Make your choice. Whom this day you going to serve? Because if you for Yah, you over here, you get to come and reside and continue with the camp with us. But if you not, thus says the Most High Yah, you looking at it yourself. Verse 27. Look, your brother, your neighbor, or your kin one. It's time for them to go. What happened after that? Verse 28. And the sons of Levi did according to the word of Moses, and about 3,000 men of the people fell on that day. 3,000. 3,000. Not 3,000 of just people that you cool with. 3,000 brothers, 3,000 kindreds, people you kin to, and 3,000 among those who were your neighbors. Understand what is being spoken of, and why is Paul mentioning this in the renewed covenant, which you call the New Testament? He's taking us back to what happened with our forefathers, what they were doing, and this was the judgment. Remember, we did the lesson before on the law, statutes, and the judgments. The judgments help you to understand how to handle situations, or when transgressions and things come up, how to handle situations. What is his will concerning how you handle and deal with people, whether they're your neighbor, whether they're your brother, whether you're kindred? How do you deal with things when these things come up? Look at our righteous forefather. Moses was righteous. Look at how that was handled. He didn't have no, look, this is how I am. He had no attachments. Moses had no attachments to the fact that many of them were their brothers. Many of them were their kindred. Many of them were their close neighbors, probably people that they loved. When it came down to them, either you for Yah or you against him. There was no feelings. The feelings went out the window. He had no love for them at that point. What did he say? Who's your mother or your father, your sister, your brother? Who's your family? He says what? Those who do the will of Yah. Those are your family. Now, many people that got the same blood running through your vein and you got the same blood running through each other's veins, those are not your family. He is separating the wheat from the tares. He's separating the sheep from the goat right now. It's not going to, many of these people you're not going to see in the kingdom. Those are not your family. We're going to have to get away from that. God's not looking at the fact that somebody is your blood. It's many people that's Israel, that's blood descendant of our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, will never see the kingdom. Only a remnant is going to be saved. Most of them are going to be just like the ones that were destroyed. Because they murmur and complaining. They hate his salvation. Many in Israel reject the Messiah. They hate his Torah. They boast about it, but they don't even keep it. He says, you make my name blaspheme among the heathen. When he tells you to come out from among them, he means it. We won't look at the examples of our forefathers. We want to keep making excuses for reasons to delay in doing what Yah told us, and then we wonder why he's not hearing us anymore. Because in a minute, many of you are getting ready to be cut off. Just like what the prophet Isaiah said, I'm getting ready to be cut off. Because he talked about his lips being full of iniquity and being around people who have unclean lips. So I hope I'm making this clear. Now, the second example that Paul said that was left, or the second account that Paul left, or that said was left as an example that we might not follow their ways, was having to deal with fornication. Now, what I'm getting ready to talk about now, I'm getting ready to start messing with a lot of people right now. A lot of people who have a righteous heart and a love towards Yah, but may not have known this. So please, I'm giving a disclaimer because some of the things I'm getting ready to talk about may be things that some of you may consider taboo or vulgar or whatever the case. But I have been led to do this. It has to be brought out because Israel has to stop this. And I see this. I've seen teachers with people talking about this. You are in error. You are leading people into fornication. Okay? And I'm getting ready to get into that. This is the second example that Paul uses as one of the things that tempted the Messiah. Okay? They were lusting after evil. Remember that. They were lusting after evil. What else did he say that they were doing? They were lusting after evil, and they were murmuring and complaining against Yah. They were committing fornication, and they were idolaters. So do not get mad at the messenger. Because all I'm doing is everything I've been talking about, I've been showing you through the word of Yah. I'm not talking off the top of my head. I'm speaking as I'm being led of the Ruach to speak, the Holy Spirit of Yah. So, let's go to the second example. Because the first one was idolaters. And we know that rebellion is also idolatry. Being stubborn, okay? Being stubborn and rebellious is the sin of witchcraft, which is idolatry. So if you're not doing what Yah told you to do, that's rebellion, and that is idolatry. Because that means you love whatever it is that you're doing more than what Yah has told you to do. That means you're putting that above what he has told you to do. And so let's go to this next example. 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and 8 says, neither should we, so we already did the idolatry. Now Paul is saying, neither should we commit fornication, as some of them fornicated. And look what it says, and 23,000 fell in one day. 23,000 fell in one day. We know that 3,000 fell with Moses because they were making merry, playing, with the golden calf. They were committing idolatry. And many of us don't realize that anything that you put above Yah can be your God. Okay? Let's not just get hung up with a statue. Many of us say, well, I'm not worshiping no statue. You worshiping your statues every time you go to Sunday church. Okay? Every time you go to Sunday church, you're worshiping all the pagan gods and the idols that they have up in there. Okay? Every time you celebrate holidays, each holiday, they're pagan, they have nothing to do with him, and they're in honor of different gods. And every time you celebrate them, you're putting another god in his space. It's idolatry. Okay? And so today's teaching is a very direct teaching. And this is something that I'm speaking as I'm hearing it. And so the next example, let's go to Numbers 25. What is Paul talking about? Neither should we commit fornication, as some of them fornicated, and that 23,000 fell in one day. Let's go to Numbers 25. We're going to read verses 1 through 9. Because Paul says this was a second example that was left to us to warn us about fornication. So what fornication was Israel engaging in? Let's read and find out. Numbers 25, verses 1. And Israel lived in Shittim, and people began to fornicate with the daughters of Moab. Those are one of the nations that y'all told us to stay away from and don't take their sons for husbands and wives for daughters and wives. So we were not supposed to be doing anything with them, but of course Israel doesn't listen. It says, and so the people of Israel, they began to fornicate with the daughters of Moab. And they called the people to the sacrifices of their gods, and people ate and bowed themselves to their gods. And Israel was joined to Baal Peor, and the anger of Yah burned against Israel. And Yah said to Moses, take all the leaders of the people and hang them up for Yah, hang them up to Yah before the sun, that the fierce anger of Yah may be turned away from Israel. So he's like, look, all these leaders, so-called leaders, that have led my people to join Baal Peor, like that's why he's calling the leaders first. You're supposed to be the head, you're supposed to be the leaders, and you have caused my people and allowed my people to join Baal Peor? His anger was burning against Israel. He's like, look, where are the leaders? Hang them up before me to the sun. I need to see them, because until I destroy them, my anger is not going to turn away from Israel. So when we go back and look at verse 2, it says that Israel made sacrifices to the gods of the Moab. That name of that God, verse 3 tells us, was Baal Peor, Baal-Peor, Baal Peor. It says that they sacrificed to the gods, to sacrifice to their gods, and it says, and the people ate. Underline ate, A-T-E. The people ate and bowed themselves to their gods. And Israel was joined to Baal Peor, and the anger of Yah burned against Israel. And Yah said to Moses, take all of the leaders of the people and hang them up to me before the sun, that my fierce anger will turn away from Israel. And Moses said to the judges of Israel, each one of you kill his men, those who joined to Baal Peor. So he had him kill all of the leaders of Israel that joined themselves to Baal Peor. Pay very close attention to this. All of the leaders, this is what he did. And behold, a man of the son of Israel came and brought in his brother, a woman of Midian, before the eyes of Moses and before the eyes of all the congregation of the sons of Israel, groaning at the door of the tent of meeting. So Yah has given this command to go out, destroy all these leaders, hang them up before me, kill them. All those leaders who joined themselves to Baal Peor, this pagan god. And so while this is happening, they notice that a Israelite man and a woman of Midian were coming to them, and they're moaning at the door of the tent. Okay, they're not in there, but they at the door. And Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the priest, saw. So Phinehas, he rose from amidst the congregation, and he took a javelin, it's like a knife, something to cut with, in his hand. And he went in after the man of Israel into the tent room. And he pierced both of them through, the man of Israel and the woman, through her belly. So he just took something, probably like what do they call, like an arrow, and just stuck it through both of them in the belly. Why? It says, so the plague was stayed from the sons of Israel, and that those died by the plague were 24,000. Now, just pause. Some of you may be thinking, wait a minute. In 1 Corinthians chapter 8, Paul said that because of the fornication, that 23,000 died. But then when we get to Numbers 25, verse 9, it says that 24,000 died. So what was it? Somebody's off. Well, Paul is not wrong. Both records deal with the same event. Both of the records are dealing with the same event. Paul is just telling you what happened to the ones that fell in one day. He's only giving you an account of the ones that fell in the one day. The plague which came upon Yah's people when they attached themselves to Beor, and when they committed adultery or fornication, and when they served the other idols instead of Yah. 1 Corinthians chapter 10 mentions 23,000, and it's only telling you about the 23,000 that fell in one day. Numbers 25 and 9, however, speaks of, again, 24,000 total who lost their lives. Now, if you go back and look at verse 4 and 5, Numbers 25, verse 4 and 5. And it tells you that the leaders were killed first, okay? This was different from the group of the 23,000 that fell in one day. You understand what I'm saying? So, again, 1 Corinthians chapter 8, in 1 Corinthians chapter 8, excuse me, Paul is distinctly pointing out the 23,000 that fell in one day as a result of their fornication and joining themselves to Baal Peor versus the total. Numbers 25 and 9 is giving you the total of the number of Israelites that fell, the 23,000 that fell at one time, in addition to the leaders that Yah said that hang up before him. We don't know that it had to have been around 1,000. Sometimes when people estimate, what Paul said in in 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and 8 is not wrong, okay? He was speaking about the 23,000 that fell in one day. That was not including the leaders. When you look at Numbers 25, verses 4 and 5, it talks about those leaders. They were the first ones to go. That was not the same ones. But in totality, Numbers 25 is telling you that total, and leaders included, 24,000 fell, okay? And so going back to Numbers 25, look at verse 9 again, because I want to explain something. Where you see plague, okay, plague is mentioned twice in Numbers 25, okay? And when you look at Numbers 25, verses 8 and 9, you see plague mentioned twice, where it says, so the plague was stayed from the sons of Israel, and that those who died by the plague were 24,000. I'm getting ready to, the Ruach gave me something profound this morning as it pertains to this. Where you see the plague mentioned twice, in Numbers 25, verses 8 and 9, according to the Blue Letter Bible, it means a pestilence when you see plague, okay? Because it says 24,000 died by the plague, okay? And the ones who, when we talk about Phinehas and him, when the two came to the door, groaning and moaning, and it says he took the javelin and he pierced both of them. When we look at the Blue Letter Bible, and I look at the Blue Letter Bible for the context of this is being spoken of for plague, because it's mentioned twice, it says a pestilence, by analogy, defeat, slaughter of a battle. So this should be correctly termed slaughter. This was a slaughter of a battle. And it says a pestilence, divine judgment, by divine judgment, a pestilence by divine judgment. And so where we read that Phinehas took a javelin and pierced the man of Israel and the Midianite woman, so the plague was stayed. If you look at it now, Numbers 25 and 8, where it says, so the plague was stayed from the sons of Israel, okay? And when you see that, it simply means that they were both killed so that the divine judgment of Yah would not come near to Israel. Because you see that, and you look at verse 9, it says that those that died by the plague were 24,000. Now, we already know that plague being spoken here is pestilence by divine judgment, meaning a slaughter, a battle, okay? It was divine judgment. And so they were both killed, okay? They were both killed so that, and Phinehas killed both of them so that divine judgment of Yah would not come near to Israel. You see that because it says that when you read it. They didn't want to interfere with the will of Yah. Are you understanding what I'm saying? This lesson should be what we're reading right here again is another example of something that we need to take heed to, because many times, and listen to what I'm saying, this is what I was given this morning, because this was like a last minute thing that I added to my lessons. Many times, Yah has judged a person, or he has judged a city, or he has judged a nation, and those interfering with that judgment by trying to save or help them, oftentimes they end up getting killed. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so sometimes our help, okay, if it is coming against the judgment of Yah, can turn into us sinning or interfering with the will of Yah, which is in turn will cause us to have his judgment come on us. Are you listening to what I'm saying? Sometimes if we try to interfere, we're trying to save and help people, if it is coming against his judgment, someone told me this 4 years ago, like, you keep trying to save this person, but you might be interfering with the will of Yah. You don't want his judgment to come on you, because a lot of times when you're trying to save somebody and it's his will for them to fall, it's his will for them to go through, sometimes you get caught in a crossfire when it was never intentionally meant for you. Okay? How many times have you been seeing two people arguing and fighting, and then you go in and you trying to help, and then the next thing you know, you don't got caught up and you don't got shot because it was never that person was not, it was not intentionally meant for you to get the bullet, but because you interfered, now you gone. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so when it comes to the will of Yah, if we're not for him, whether we agree or like it or not, whether you agree or disagree or like it or not, if we are not for him, if we're not for him, we're by default, we're automatically against him. And so we need to let this example meditate in our heart and take heed. You know, sometimes we need to pray, Father, is this of your will for me to do? Or should I interfere? You know, I've had this happen to me before with a friend that wanted my help. And I helped this person before. And I'm not going to say the person's name, and I'm not going to say so you will know if it was a male or female, what it was. All I know was this person came to me for help. I helped this person one time. And I explained to this person what this person needed to do to be right, you know, with Yah. This person never did this, and then later on fell back into the same situation again. And I wanted to go, and the person, you know, called me again to help, and I was going to help. I was ready and willing because I'm thinking I'm helping. But all I heard was, don't do it. And it was not Yah's will for me to help this person. Because sometimes in you thinking that you're helping a person, you're actually coming against Yah because you're interfering with his judgment. Do you understand what I'm saying? Sometimes you're interfering with his judgment. And so just getting back to this situation, when we read Numbers 25, and when we begin reading in verse 7, where it tells you that Phinehas took the javelin, because the Israelite man and the Midian woman were probably one of those that were at the door. They were moaning. They were probably those that were at the door that had joined themselves, and it had already, the judgment had went out, killed them. They're coming at the door, help me. He like, I'm getting ready to do this because what did it say? Numbers 25 and verse 8 says, so the plague will stay from the sons of Israel, that it will not come in. I'm not getting ready to open the door and let you come in and help you when the judgment has already been sent out by Yah to kill you. Brother, kindred, neighbor. I can't do it. I'm sorry. You cannot come in the tent. They were on the outside of the tent, most likely wanting help. They're groaning. And he like, no, I'm sorry. I can't do it. And he said this way that the plague we already know was pestilence by divine judgment, a great slaughter. I'm sorry, I can't help you. I love you, but I can't help you. I'm sorry. So I'm hoping that you understanding what I'm saying. We have to be careful with the help, because sometimes you might be interfering with the judgment of Yah. And so I learned some things that I had not even paid attention to. This, again, was another example. Remember, we read 1 Corinthians 10. He left many examples. This example where he said the 23,000 fell, this was the account. They were worshiping Baal Peor, and they were fornicating, and the judgment went out, killed them. I don't care who they are. They got to go. I'm sorry. And so this man did not interfere with that judgment. So that everybody else in the camp, in the tent, couldn't get affected, or it couldn't and could not. It did not suffer the wrath of Yah to come on the whole house, because they interfered. They like, oh no, you got to stay out here. I'm sorry, that's the judgment. You can't come. I'm sorry. So I want to go to a precept from the prophet Hosea, and then we're going to listen to an audio clip. Numbers 25:2 says that the people ate and bowed down to their God. So what did they eat? When I went to the Blue Letter Bible for 8, because when you look at Numbers 25:2, because remember the God they're serving and bowed down to was Baal Peor. When I looked at the word 8, in the context that is being spoken of, it says that the people ate and bowed down to their God in Numbers 25:2. Blue Letter Bible for 8 says to devour. It says to eat, literally or figuratively. So it could be eating literally or figuratively. It says to feed, either literally or figuratively feeding. To eat, human subject. To cause to eat or to be eaten by men. Now, we got to really think about this, because were the people literally being devoured and eaten up? Were they not able to come back? And when y'all found out about this great fornication, that the 24,000 fell, right? So it says literally or figuratively to eat. It says to eat, a human subject, or to be eaten by men. So what am I talking about? I want to go to a precept quickly. Hosea 9:10. Hosea 9:10 says, I found Israel like grapes in the wilderness. I saw your fathers as the first fruit in the fig tree at her first time. They came to Baal Peor and set themselves apart to a shameful thing. And they became hateful like that which they loved. What was this shameful thing that Israel was doing? What was this shameful thing? Blue Letter Bible says, because Numbers 25:2 says that the people ate and they bowed down to their God. So what were they doing? We already know Blue Letter Bible in this context says they ate. Literally or figuratively, they ate. To eat a human subject, to cause to eat, to be eaten by men. Hosea tells us, Hosea 9:10, that says that Israel came to Baal Peor and they set themselves apart. Are we not supposed to be set apart to Yah? But we find that Israel has set themselves apart, made a covenant, and made themselves set apart to Baal Peor and did a shameful thing. So we're going to listen to an audio clip that is going to break it down. I'm giving you a warning. It might be a little graphic. Forget about the use of the term Lord, and please listen to the message of what is being spoken of, and then I will come right back.
Again, all Scripture are for our education and correction. Are we going to listen and learn from those Scriptures? Just before Israel was to cross the Jordan into the Promised Land, We read in Numbers how Israel was joined to Baal Peor. Although Balaam could not curse Israel, he did counsel King Balak on how he might get the upper hand over Israel, because Balaam desperately wanted to receive the rewards Balak was offering. This is recounted in the following scripture, Revelation 2:14. But I have a few things against you, because you have there those who hold to the teachings of Balaam, who taught Balak to cast a stumbling block before the sons of Israel, to eat things sacrificed to idols, and to commit fornication. What does eating have to do with fornication? When you understand the rituals involved in this worship of Peor, then you will understand this statement. The worship of Baal Peor involved the most perverted acts between the temple prostitutes and Baal devotees, all done for a profit. The rituals specifically designed to debase the devotees involved the exposure of the prostitutes' genitalia and their direct oral exchange of body fluids and waste products. In these rituals, the prostitutes assumed a dominatrix, donor role, and the men the submissive receptor role. The rituals in establishing the power of the feminine over the masculine worked to invert the normative Hebrew social structure from patriarchal to matriarchal, and the arrestment of the development of men in the stage of irresponsible boys instead of maturing them into men of principle. What was the stumbling block that Balaam offered to King Balak? It was the worship of Baal Peor. After Balaam departed from Moab, we see the ramifications of his instruction as Israel joined itself to Baal Peor. Now Israel remained in Acacia Grove, and the people began to commit harlotry with the women of Moab. They invited the people to the sacrifices of their gods, and the people ate and bowed down to their gods. So Israel was joined to Baal Peor, and the anger of the Lord was aroused against Israel. Numbers 25:1-3. Knowing what the sin of Peor was, is it any wonder that due to the sin of Peor, Israel was judged by a plague that killed 24,000? Look, these women caused the children of Israel, through the counsel of Balaam, to trespass against the Lord in the incident of Peor, and there was a plague among the congregation of the Lord. Numbers 31:16. Because he taught the enemies of Israel how to ensnare them in this sin, Israel later killed Balaam, Joshua 13:22, who became an object lesson of a false prophet. They have forsaken the right way and gone astray, following the way of Balaam, the son of Beor, who loved the wages of unrighteousness. 2 Peter 2:15. Woe to them, for they have gone the way of Cain, and have run greedily in the error of Balaam for profit, and perished in the rebellion of Korah. Jude 1:11. The Lord himself gives his perspective of the incident of Peor through Hosea in chapter 9 and verse 10. I found Israel like grapes in the wilderness. I saw your forefathers as the earliest fruit of the fig tree in its first season. But they came to Baal Peor and devoted themselves to shame, and they became as detestable as that which they loved. Baal Peor literally means Lord of the open hole. Regardless of the purpose for which God designed the different parts of the body, Baal Peor's devotees relished in using every opening for sexual gratification, and thus he was the god of anal and oral sex. The practice of its perversion involved men, women, and even children and animals. This is what Baal Peor worship is. Anyone can easily see that the worship of Baal Peor exists today, not only in the porn industry, but all across what's called the entertainment industry. We have musicians that sing about the acts of Baal Peor that regularly make it to the top of the popularity charts. There are at least 25 number one songs since 1972 that promote oral and anal sex, songs that your own children have memorized, sometimes without knowing what they mean. So-called artists like this are nothing more than modern-day Baal Peor temple prostitutes who glorify the use of every orifice for lascivious gratification, evoking the audience to worship of Baal.
All right, so here we have it. I'm getting ready to mess with some marriages today, and many of those marriages are amongst those who are in the Israelite community. I've seen videos on YouTube from many well-known, well-versed Israelite teachers who were pretty much saying that, endorsing it, saying that it was okay, and then trying to use the Songs of Solomon to justify doing it when these are filthy acts. This is what our people were doing. This was the example. They were committing fornication where Paul said 23,000 fell in one day. And the others were the leaders that joined themselves in number 25, when you read verses 4 and 5, where Yah hung them up to the sun, that he dealt with them. In its totality, 24,000 fell by the plague. That was the judgment. That was Yah's judgment for joining themselves to Baal Peor, those who fell, the 23,000 that fell in one day, and those leaders that allowed this to happen. This shameful thing that Hosea 9 and 10 says. They came to Baal Peor and they set themselves apart to a shameful thing. Deuteronomy 4 and 3 says, your eyes have seen that which Yah has done in Baal Peor, for Yah your power destroyed them from among you, the men that follow Baal Peor. Yah destroyed our forefathers that follow after Baal Peor, that set themselves apart to Baal Peor. Go to Revelations 2 and 14. Go to Revelations 2 and 14, because even our Messiah talks about it. Revelations 2 and 14, Yeshua speaks the following. But I have a few things against you, that you have there those holding the teachings of Balaam, those who taught Balak to throw a stumbling block before the sons of Israel, to eat idol sacrifices and to commit fornication. They were committing idolatry, sacrificing to the God, and committing fornication. When I went to the Blue Letter Bible, for the context in which it was being used, Baal Peor was being used in Numbers 25 and Hosea and Revelation. Baal Peor means Lord, it says, according to the Blue Letter Bible, it says Lord of the gap or the opening, oral sex. Oral sex. This is what this is. Some of you call it you going be in somebody's behind. You looking from places of waste, like the gentleman said in the audio clip. The Lord of the gap or the opening is a hole. Any hole, no matter what hole and what the purpose in which Yah created it for, they decided we're going to use it for sexual gratification. You know what else the Blue Letter Bible also said for Baal Peor? In the context that it's being used of in Numbers 25, it also says that Baal Peor means the deity worshipped at Peor with probable licentious rites. Do you know what it means to be licentious? Licentious, according to dictionary.com, says sexually unrestrained, disregarding sexual restraints, immoral, uncontrolled. The source.com says swinging. You know, if you've heard people say we going swinging with couples, lustful. It says lewd. It says pornographic, meaning pornography, pornea. That's what fornication is pornea. America leads the pornography industry out of all the nations. Is leading everyone else into whoredom. Many of you are married. You sit up and you tell me, oh, I watch pornography with my husband, so it's okay. Y'all say it's not okay. This is Baal Peor worship. It says, the source.com says that licentious means vulgar. It says indecent. Being sexually unrestrained, meaning having no restraints, all goes. I can sleep with an animal if I want to. I can have anal oral sex with animals. I've seen videos and heard people talking about, these people having sex with a horse. Just disregard, no sexual restraints, whatever we want. I know that y'all made your butthole for your feces to come out, but I want to use it to lick it. I want to use it to ram my penis up in it. I want to use this. This is what people are doing. And I say the best for last. The Blue Letter Bible for Leviticus, Leventious. The Blue Letter Bible, okay, for licentious. And I'm using this because this is in the Blue Letter Bible. It says, to prostitute one's body to the lust of another. Are you listening to this? This is what was going on with Baal Peor worship. It was temple prostitution going on. The Blue Letter Bible says to prostitute one's body to the lust of another. This means that you are sinning against your own self. Remember, all the other sins are outside the body, but fornication, he says, you sin against your own self. To prostitute your own body. It says to give oneself to unlawful sexual intercourse. This is the Blue Letter Bible I'm reading. Every sex act you think that you do in the bedroom is not of Yah. Don't come to me with that scripture talking about the bed is undefiled. Yeah, it's undefiled as long as you don't bring horses and goats in it. It's undefiled as long as you're not bringing Baal Peor worship in it, aka anal or oral sex. It says to give oneself to unlawful sexual intercourse. These are things that sexual intercourse that Yah has said that we are not to engage in, like homosexuality, like bestiality, having sex with animals, man with women, man with man, woman with woman. And yes, anal and oral sex is a part of that as well. It is unlawful sexual intercourse. Okay? To commit fornication, it says, metaphor, to be given to idolatry. Do you understand that when you're participating in anal oral sex, it says, according to the Blue Letter Bible, to be given to idolatry? Look up fornication and adultery, and you will find that it says, and I'm just looking at it, it's plain as day. It says anal and oral sex, whether between the same sex or, sodomy. Did you know that sodomy is anal and oral sex as well? Did you know that? Many of you think that, I'm not gay. If you are engaging in anal and oral sex, that is a homosexual spirit. Did you know that? Did you know that it says whether it's between male and male, female and female, or it says opposite sex? So that means whether it's heterosexual or homosexual relationship. Anal and oral sex is Baal Peor worship. When you look it up, Baal Peor in the Blue Letter Bible, it says Lord of the gap or opening. Baal Peor is the Lord of the opening, the hole. This is what our people Israel were doing, and the Blue Letter Bible says the deity worship at Peor with probable licentious rites. That's rituals. That's licentious means being sexually unrestrained. You don't hold back. You do any and everything. You want to bring a monkey in, bring a monkey in. Oh, you want to put on a pornography tape while we watch it? Let's do that. Oh, you want to go bring another one in and have a threesome? Oh, let's do that. That is lascivious sexual rights is Baal Peor, it's idolatry, and it says to worship idols. The Blue Letter Bible for this. To prostitute one's body to the lust of another, to give oneself to unlawful sexual intercourse, to commit fornication, metaphor, to be given to idolatry, to worship idols. So many of you talking about, I don't worship idols, I don't have no statue. If you are engaging in anal or oral sex, whether you're married or unmarried, you are committing worship to Baal Peor. It says to permit oneself to be drawn away by another into idolatry. So if your husband is coming to you, wife, and saying, I want to eat you, I want to go down on you, or he wants to engage in oral anal sex, it says that you're permitting yourself, if you agree to it, you're permitting yourself to be drawn away by another into idolatry. This is idolatry as well. Sodomy is not just between what you consider homosexual. If you're committing anal or oral sex and you're heterosexual, you are committing Baal Peor and you are committing sodomy. Look it up. This is porneia. That's where pornography comes from. You are engaging in sexual unrestrained acts. This is Baal Peor worship. This is the fornication that our people were doing that caused 23,000 people to fall, or 24,000 according to Numbers 25, and 23,000, Paul said, in one day. This caused the leaders to be hung up to the sun before Yah, because it's spiritual adultery, because you have set yourself apart. If I'm married and I have my husband, but I'm going to have sex with somebody else, I'm committing adultery. Because I have not made a commitment with this man. I made a commitment to my husband. So I'm stepping out on him. That's the same thing that Israel was doing. And so we are living. And so I know I just messed with some marriages, and I know it's going to be some people arguing. Let me explain something to you, and I'm going to share my own testimony. I was married before. This was the reason why y'all allowed me to leave after 12 years. Because of this very same thing. I remember when y'all told me, and I was driving in a car, and I've shared this with Prina several times, and I remember hearing, you're not going to be blessed until you stop doing this. You're not going to be blessed. I never engaged in anal sex, but I did do with the oral. And I heard you're not going to be blessed until you stop doing this. You're not going to be blessed until you stop doing this. And when I had to come to my ex-husband and tell them this, oh, my goodness, the whole world fell apart, literally. My household was in an uproar. I saw a demon come out of him. I heard him speak things, and he said things, and I won't even repeat on this thing. But it's the transformation of what happened with him when I said no and how mad this demon got. This demon was speaking through him. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I'm not telling you this because I haven't had to go through this. If it means that you have to leave, and I'm not telling anybody to leave, but you better understand what Yah is saying about idolatry and fornication and what his word says. Understand the examples that we read so far and how Moses, drew the line in the sand. It didn't matter who it was. I had to, for my own soul. I could no longer say, well, I got to please my husband. No, I do not have to sin against Yah and commit fornication. Because you can commit fornication and you're married. Did you know that? If you're participating in unlawful sexual intercourse, like the Blue Letter Bible, if you're committing sodomy and fornication, anal or oral sex, porneia, all these things, do you understand? Sliding down a pole. That's all part of that. The stripper pole, all of that. All of that stuff is not of Yah. We are living in an unrestrained world, understand this, where the God of self rules, where there are no restraints, where demons come to feast. And this is why Paul said the following in Philippians 3, Go to Philippians 3, verses 18 through 19. Because what I just got finished reading to you and explaining to you what Baal Peor is, you heard the clip. I broke it down to you in the Blue Letter Bible, what this is. Why our people were destroyed. 24,000. Okay? It is idolatry, it's fornication, it's spiritual adultery, it's sodomy. This is what this Baal Peor worship is about. Do you understand? And I know that many of you don't want to hear what I'm saying right now because I know I'm messing with some relationships, and I shouldn't be, because you shouldn't be having sex in the first place if you're not married. But I'm talking about those who are married, who are having intercourse within the context that Yah has allowed. If you are married, if you are married and you are engaging in anal or oral sex, you must immediately repent right now. Please understand that the message you're hearing, this is a Ruach-led and inspired message. Somebody that's listening to this needs to hear this. Go to Philippians 3, verse 18 and 19. Philippians 3 and 18 says, "For as I have often told you before, and now declare even with tears, many live as enemies of the cross of the Messiah. Their end is destruction." Are you listening to what this is saying? Look at Philippians 3 and 18. "For as I have often told you before, and now declare even with tears, many live as enemies of the cross or the tree of the Messiah." Many of you are living as an enemy of what they had his son do for you on the tree. You're living as an enemy of the Messiah. You are tempting the Messiah by continuing to do these things. Paul left this as an example. 24,000 of our forefathers fell because of this fornication. And if you continue to do this after hearing this message, you are without excuse. You can't say you don't know anymore. Many, he says, Philippians 3 and 18, you are living your lives as an enemy of the stake or the tree of the Messiah. What did he say their end is? Verse 19, their end is destruction. You're going to be destroyed like our forefathers were destroyed. Like Yah told Moses, kill them, brothers, kindred, neighbors. The judgment went out. Their end was destruction for the fornication and for the idolatry and for lusting after evil. As 1 Corinthians 10 said, by doing all of these things, they were tempting the Messiah. Their end is destruction. It says their God is their belly. Look at that. Their God is their belly. And they glory in their shame, with minds set on earthly things. They're of the flesh. They're of the world. That's why he said their mind are set on the earthly things. They're carnal. They glory in their shame. The homosexuals and the people who are doing this, they love who they are. They're not ashamed of it. They love all the perverted sex acts that they do. Like if you're not committing Baal Peor worship, meaning AKA sodomy, AKA adultery, AKA pornea, AKA anal and oral sex, if you're not doing that, then they say, oh, you're not good in bed. Oh, you boring. Why? You know why? When you engage in these things, you can never top the last act you've done. You got to bring in sex toys and all kind of dildos and everything else. All of these things. Going to those kind of stores, they're not of Yah. When it says in Philippians 3 and 19, their end is destruction, their God is in their belly. The Blue Letter Bible says for belly, that means is to be given up to the pleasure of the palate, to gluttony. So this means you are a glutton. When you are given up to the pleasures of your palate, that means a gluttony. This means that whatever pleasures you want to feast on, whether it's righteous or unrighteous, whether it's right or wrong, whether it's good or evil, you're going to engage in it. So being a glutton, what I learned today
committing the sin of gluttony is not about food. Because the Blue Letter Bible says that the belly, as used in Philippians 3:19, means the innermost part of a man. It says the innermost part of a man, the soul, the heart, as the seat of the thoughts, the feelings, and the choice. We did this lesson a while back about how to love Yahweh with all your soul, heart, and mind. So as a man thinks, so is he. Whatever is in your heart, he says, is what you will do. So being a glutton or committing the sin of gluttony is not about overeating or eating too much food. According to the Blue Letter Bible, it is to be given up to the pleasure. Now, you can overeat, and it is being a glutton. Your stomach let you know when you're tired. You eating to the point you're throwing up. Okay, now you're a gluttony because you're not satisfied. It is to be given up to the pleasures of your palate. It also says the innermost part of a man, the soul, the heart, the seat of the thoughts of your feelings and your choice. So this is what it means to be a glutton. Okay? This is what it means. You're given over to your pleasures. You never can have enough. So in this Baal Peor rituals and the sacrifices to this deity, the Israelites that worshiped and joined themselves to Baal Peor, they would bow down to the ground with their bottoms up. So some of the things I'm going to say is going to be graphic. Just like Luke, the Miami rapper. And he used to tell them to pop your coochie, and they bow down to the ground, and he says doo-doo brown and all those things. What do you think he's talking about? He's talking about anal sex because it's the feces. That's what he's talking about. Dropping it like it's hot. The worshipers of Israel would bow down to the ground with their bottoms up, meaning with their behinds up. That's where you get these provocative dances, where many of you have your little girls popping in their behind and twerking and shaking their behind and bending down with their butt up in the air. This is Baal Peor worship. You're trying to seduce them with your bottom, with your face down to the ground, your bottom up, and then so this is what they would do. The Israelites would bow down to the ground with their bottoms or their behinds up in the air, and they would eat from places of waste, places of holes. Remember, Baal Peor means Lord of the gap or Lord of the opening. Wherever the opening is the hole, they would eat from that place. So a lot of people will eat people's behinds or eat people's vaginas or vice versa with the penis. Same thing. They would eat from the cleft in order to be able to commune with this pagan god. Now, while males and females, they both participated in these acts, the primary purpose was to glorify the female. This is the reason why we have this whole independent society and their dominatrix and S&M and all these things, where people used to have committing sex acts, what they call the 69, where the man is doing a woman and the woman is doing a man at the same time. This is all Baal Peor worship. Eating from the hole, eating from places of waste. That's why it's called, according to the Blue Letter Bible, the Lord of the opening, the Lord of the gap, the hole. Okay? And they were sexually unrestrained. This is what Israel joined them to. These were the ones that Paul said was left as an example. He says, don't do this. And so whether the man did the act or the man had it done to him, the man has to sacrifice his manhood in order to join in the act. So this means he pretty much has to effeminize himself, act like he's the female. He's sitting there with his legs open, looking crazy. Okay, so the man has to debase himself physically and spiritually. He has to be broken down and put in an enslaved mentality so that he would submit. And so again, whether the man was initiator or he was the recipient of the act. He had to debase himself. I heard the singer Tank on the Breakfast Club talking about how he liked for a woman to eat his behind. This was the most absolute disgusting thing. I couldn't even listen to it. That's a man who does that. He is definitely homosexual. You have demons, many demons in you. This is the Baal Peor spirit. Okay, a man has to debase himself to sit there with his legs open like a female, letting a woman do this. This is where it says they ate, they bow down. They have to they feminize themselves. That's what it means to be effeminate, because you're acting like you're the female. You have to debase yourself and sacrifice your manhood in order to participate and join yourself to this God. Baal Peor worship is about debasing and sacrificing the male, okay? It's one of the ways that many people, when you're doing the pole worship, and I talked about this earlier, sliding down the pole, yes, that. If you're going to strip clubs and swinging and sliding down the pole, this is Baal Peor worship. The stripper represents the temple prostitute seducing the man to bow down to commit whoredom with her. Okay? So she's bending all over and got her legs open. She's sliding down the pole with her legs open. This is the opening. Baal Peor worship. She's seducing the man to commit whoredom with her. This is the same whoredom that was spoken of in Numbers 25, and the same whoredom, a.k.a. shameful acts, that the prophet Hosea warned us about in Hosea 9 and 10. So while you engage in these acts, all sexual immorality, when you're doing this, you're allowing yourself to fornicate with demons, okay? You're turning your home into a shrine. You're turning your home where you commit these acts. If you are saying that you're in the truth and you're married and you're committing anal and oral sex, please repent and stop today. You and your husband get down on your knees, detach yourself from this demon, ask Yah to forgive you and never do this again. Because you are turning your home into a shrine. You have turned your home into a temple place of worship for demons to come and congregate. Pornography, strip clubs, pole dancing, lap dancing, oral anal sex, all of these acts, whether you're married or unmarried, whether you have consent or no consent from your spouse, is still wrong. Yah's set-apart spirit is not leading you to eat from somebody's behind and put your lips on somebody's vagina. His spirit is not leading you to do that. And so all who engage in these acts are tempting the Messiah, and you are in danger of facing judgment. And if you don't repent, especially those who are listening to this teaching and pretend like you didn't hear, or you harden your heart and turn away, know that Yah knows. Many of you love the pleasures that you get from these acts more than you do Yah in your soul. That's what makes you a glutton. Because you love the pleasures more than you love Yah, and then it becomes acts of idolatry. No idolater will see the kingdom. No fornicator will see the kingdom. No one who continues in lust will see the kingdom. Yah did not create his gift of intercourse to be used in a manner that Satan has allowed and then led people into fornication and idolatry and have destroyed marriages. Many of you, once your husbands get into these and you're watching these pornos and these things, you can never top the last acts. You can't have regular intercourse and make love to your spouse and have it be of Yah, because you got to bring in a monkey. You got to bring in another man or another woman. You got to go to the sex store and get toys and all these things. Yah did not mean for that these things defile the bed. The marriage bed is undefiled when you keep it undefiled. When you bring in a monkey, then it's no longer undefiled. And so 1 Corinthians 10 and 9 says that our forefathers tempted the Messiah, and because of this, their bodies lay dead and scatter in the deserted places. What does it mean to tempt the Messiah? Well, what Paul is saying when he speaks of tempting the Messiah, in the Blue Letter Bible, to tempt means to test. It means to prove or to put to prove Yah's character and power. Okay, you're trying to prove, you want him, you prove to me. So when they were trying Yah, and just like how many of you who have children that try you, okay? How many times have you told your child not to do something over and over again? They know what your will is. They know what you told them about what they're doing, and if they continue to do it, they already know what you told them you're going to do. But they don't believe you. They like, oh, you know, my father used to tell me, you don't believe that you know what don't stink. Or what Kevin Hart say, you going to learn today? That's what he's talking about. When you try your parents, and then when you finally get popped in the mouth, like my parents used to say, look, when I was growing up, I brought you in this world, and I will take you out. Okay? And so when your parents are finally tired of telling you the same thing over and over, you know, when they finally do what they said they were going to do, because clearly you thought they was playing. Now it's too late because you're picking up your teeth off the floor. Okay? And so to tempt the Messiah, it simply means that you are putting him to the test. And whether you're consciously or unconsciously aware, in the back of most people's minds, you're thinking, well, it's all right. Well, Yah knows my heart. Well, he knows I'm weak. Well, he's a loving and forgiving God. He'll understand. I'll repent tomorrow. This is what many of us say. And many like to try Yah because they don't believe that he will destroy them. They don't believe it. They don't believe that they will be the one that will hear, depart from me, I never knew you. They don't think that, oh, not me. Just like when we listen to that audio clip that we played at our conference, at the webinar conference. Powerful. They're like, oh, I serve you. He's like, you know, it goes without saying. And y'all like, no, it doesn't go without saying. Many people were still before the Messiah. Oh, I did this and I did that. And he said, depart from me, I never knew you. They couldn't believe it. And so when we're tempting him, we're putting his patience to the test. We test his limits of grace. When we're tempting him, we're testing the limits of grace. We're pushing the envelope to see how far we can get away with sin. We tempt him when we indulge in willful sin and outright rebellion and then turn around and say, well, Yah knows my heart. Or, you know, you can't judge me, or God loves everybody. Oh, well, we all saved by grace. All those statements right there are people who like to try Yah. Go to Romans 6. I'm going to read a precept. Romans 6, and I'm heading towards the end. Romans 6. Romans 6, and I want to read, starting with verse 1. What then shall we say? Shall we continue in sin that grace may abound? Let it not be. We who have died to sin, how shall we continue to live in it? Or are you ignorant that all who were baptized into the Messiah Yeshua were baptized into his death? Therefore, we were buried with him through baptism into death, that as the Messiah was raised up from the dead by the glory of the Father, so also we should walk in the newness of life. For if we have been planted together with him in the likeness of his death, so also shall we be in the resurrection. For we know this, that our old self was crucified with him, that the body of sin might be destroyed, so that we no longer serve sin. So Paul is telling you right here, because many of you are going to see hell because of your misunderstanding of grace, and it is going to be cleared up now. Paul says, shall we continue to sin so that grace may abound, meaning so that grace can run out? He says, let it not be. trying to do? Just have grace just continue to grow and increase till it can increase and grow no more? He says if you have died to sin, then how can you continue to keep living in it talking about we under grace? He said if your old self was crucified in him, then the body of sin shall be destroyed so that you no longer serve in sin. Go down to verse 11. So also you count yourselves to be truly dead to sin, but alive to Yah in Yeshua, Messiah, our Master. Then do not let sin reign in your mortal bodies to obey its lust. He's meaning don't let sin control you. Neither present your members as an instrument of unrighteousness to sin. That means you don't use your body as an instrument to sin, meaning when you engage in that anal oral sex and all the other things that we talked about, fornication, idolatry, adultery, everything. Don't use your body parts because that's what that means as an instrument to sin. But present yourselves to Yah as one living from the dead and your members instruments of righteousness to Yah. For your sins shall not master it over you, for you are not under the law, okay, but under grace. Now, the King James Version says you are not under the law. But if you're reading the Hebraic roots, which is the correct reading, it says you are not under the penalty of law breaking, but you are under grace. What is the penalty? The penalty of the law was a law of sin and death. The penalty was a punishment, the judgment that fell on our people for transgressing and breaking Yah's law, because that's what sin is. 1 John 3 and 4 says, sin is the transgression or the breaking of the law. I am no longer under the penalty. Every land has a law. If no smoking in the elevator is the law, if I'm in the elevator and I'm not smoking, I'm not under the penalty of that law. What are the penalties? The judgment. When you look in the elevator, it says no smoking. Penalty is $3,000 or a fine, or you go to jail. I'm not under the penalty of that law because that's what it means to be under the law. As long as I'm in the elevator and I don't smoke, I'm not under that law, meaning I'm not under the judgments that will come against me if I smoke in there. As long as I don't smoke, I'm not under that law because now we're under grace. Paul says, what then? Shall we sin because we are not under the penalty of the Torah, but under grace? Shall you keep sinning because you think when people keep saying I'm not under the law, that doesn't mean that you no longer have to keep Yah's laws and commandments. Come on now. He's talking about you're not under the penalty of the law, the judgments, but you're under grace. Grace gives you time. It doesn't mean you have a license to continue sinning. Every nation has laws, and they have penalties for breaking the law. Once you break the law, now you're under that law. You're under the penalty because you broke it. Now judgment is going to come. If the judge lets you off, then that's grace because they didn't give you the punishment that you deserve. So because of the judge let you off, that means let me keep doing it because I got away with it? No. That's what Paul said. Shall I keep sinning so grace can abound? He says, do you not know that to whom you present yourselves as a slave for obedience, you are slaves to whom you obey, whether of sin to death or obedience to righteousness? I speak as a man on account of the weakness of your flesh. For as you yielded your members as slaves to uncleanness and to iniquity, so now yield your members as slaves to righteousness and sanctification. When we were out in the world fornicating, committing adultery, sinning, we use our bodies as instruments to do evil, to do unrighteousness, to be unclean. Now that we are of Him, we have to separate ourselves from committing those acts, and now we use our body to those things that are to sanctification and righteousness, meaning being clean and pure before our Father Yah. But when you continue on your sins, after He already went on the tree and died for you, now you are treating Yeshua's great sacrifice is coming. You're treating what he did with utter disregard. And you're being a willful sinner who is putting him to open shame. Not just open shame in the world's eyes, but for all of heaven and hell to see. So what does Yah say about willful sin? What does he say? Go to Hebrews 10. What did he say? For he who knows what to do but doesn't do it, didn't he say, is this not sin to him? Did you know what to do and you still don't do it? Many of you now are going to know after listening to this lesson what to do. And if you keep doing it now, it's willful sin. Some of you probably going to stop listening now because you don't want to be held accountable. But guess what? You will be for turning your ear away from hearing the law. And then after that, your prayers are going to be an abomination. So you better keep listening. Hebrews 10, verse 26 through 31. For if we willfully sinning after receiving the knowledge of the truth, there remains no more sacrifice concerning sins, but he is ready for the fearful judgment and zealous fire being about to consume the adversaries. For if he who transgressed the law of Moses died without mercy at the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, how much more punishment do you think will be thought worthy to receive the one trampling the Son of Yah and having counted the blood of the covenant as common, in which he was sanctified? I mean, you were cleansed through his blood. He says, now you are insulting. Look at verse 29. He says, you have insulted the Spirit of grace. Do you understand what this means? That means when you continue to keep sinning, after you know the truth, after he has sent his Son to die, and he's brought you into the truth, and you're going to keep sinning, talking about y'all know my heart, now you are insulting the Spirit of grace. This is how you insult. Now you're tempting the Messiah. You're tempting the Messiah now because you know the truth, and yet you still keep doing the same sins, and you won't repent. You're treating his blood as common. He gave you grace. He pardoned you. And now you want to keep sinning on purpose? Now that's like an insult. That's an absolute insult. If you and a friend got into an argument, a friend betrayed you, you didn't cut the friend off, you decided to give the friend grace and forgive the person, allow them to continue to remain in your life as a friend, and they spit in your face and treat that as common, like they didn't care, and turn around and continue doing the same thing after you forgive them. That's not a person who is sorry. A person who keeps doing the same thing over and over, they have abused the grace that you have given to them. They have now you're insulted. This is what Yah is talking about. Verse 30, for we know him who has said, vengeance belongs to me, I will repay, says Yah. And again, Yah will judge his people. It is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living Yah. And so you even tempt the Messiah when you think in your heart, how long can I indulge in my sin before Yah's fierce anger comes against me? Oh, well, I know Yah, God is merciful. You know, he loves everybody. He wouldn't judge me. I'm his child. This is what many self-proclaimed believers do in tempting the Messiah every day. They want to see how close they can get to hell's fire without facing the consequences. They don't even know that they have casted off conviction at this point because they're reasoning with themselves in their mind. They have ignored and they have grieved the set-apart spirit. Remember when we did the lesson, Ephesians 4:30, do not grieve the set-apart spirit, for it is by his set-apart spirit that you are sealed into the day of redemption. When you're tempting Messiah, you're teeter-tottering, okay? You got your pinky toe in the fire. Because if you grieve the set-apart spirit to the point where it leaves, that's your salvation that's gone. Okay? Many of you will be deceived all the way up until the day of judgment. And that's when you're going to hear, I never knew you. And I'm going to give you another example to truly help you to understand grace. So let's say you've committed a crime, and guilty is the jury's verdict. They have said that you are guilty. The judge's sentence is death by electrocution. So the judgment has said you're going to be electrocuted. Okay? Let's say this person who committed this crime, his name is John Doe. He's a convicted murderer. Okay? He, in a jealous rage, he took another man's life. Okay? Now, when the judgment was rendered, he was not surprised that he got a guilty verdict because, in fact, he realized that he did deserve the death penalty for what he had done. Okay? He also knew in his heart that no apology and no amount of remorse could change the sentence. He knew that he was guilty. He knew that he committed the crime. And regardless of how many times he looked into the eyes of the family and pleaded for the victim's family and pleaded for their forgiveness, he knew no matter how much he desired that he could go back and change the events that happened, he knew again that one fact remained, and that was that he deserved to die, that he was going to be put to death. Okay, the law is a law, and he was going to have to pay the utmost price for his transgression. But wait, just when he's knocking at death's door, okay, although he knows that he deserves death, with no one else, with nowhere else to turn, he begs for mercy from the governor, and surprisingly, the governor grants him this request, and the governor allows the judge to show mercy. And so instead of receiving the death penalty, right when he's at death's door, the death that he deserved, the governor puts him on a 7-year parole and extends grace to him. He is extended grace. And so for 7 years, the judge says, you better clean up your life. You better stay out of trouble. Don't break any more laws, because if I see you in my courtroom again, I'm going to revoke my mercy, and you will get no more grace from me. Okay? Then you're going to have to suffer the original verdict that was rendered. And so again, the new verdict is you have been pardoned. Okay? The death penalty that was against you has been overturned by the judge. I repeat, the new verdict is, by the grace of the governor of this state, you have been pardoned. So you're thinking in yourself, I can't believe it. He pardoned me. I can live. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Humbly thankful for the fact that you have been pardoned, that grace was shown to you. And you vowed from that day forward that you will be a model citizen, and that you will never again get in trouble with the law. And so the concept of what scriptural grace is, from that example that I just showed you, this is how grace works. This is how grace should look in the life of a believer, just how you heard it illustrated in this example. This is how grace should look. And so in Romans 5:2, the Apostle Paul said that it is through faith in Yeshua, our Messiah, that we have access to grace. It is faith in him that we have access to grace. And so Paul talks about grace all throughout the New Testament and how we all deserve to die because we were sinners. And so it is only by the mercy of Yah and the sacrificial death of his son, Yeshua the Messiah, that we have grace today. And so being sinless, our Messiah was the only one who could pay the death penalty for ourselves instead of us. He was the only one that could do it. Yah extended his grace to us and sending his son to die for us with the assurance that we would take full advantage of his grace and work out our salvation with fear and trembling. This is what it means to work out your salvation with fear and trembling, like I said earlier. It means to take full advantage of the grace. And so just like the grace that was extended to John Doe in our example, only Yah, through the sacrifice of his son, was able to release us from this death penalty. And so he and Yeshua is the judge. So once we were pardoned, we are now expected to move from sin to obedience. Just as the man John Doe, who was pardoned by the governor, was expected to move from being a lawbreaker to a law keeper. He isn't expected to abuse the grace that was granted to him by the governor as a license to continue to keep committing the same crime over and over and over again. That's not why the governor released him. And so in Ephesians 2 and 8, Paul said that we are saved by grace. But then in that same sentence, he said that it was a gift of Yah. Grace is a gift that a wise person does not take for granted. And so now suppose this condemned man went right out and repeated the same crime. Soon as he got pardoned by the judge, John Doe goes right out and repeats the same crime and go kill someone, do the same crime that he was just pardoned for. Would this not only violate the grace that was extended to him, but wouldn't the governor now be insulted? Wouldn't the governor be insulted? This is what Paul say when you insult the spirit of grace. After all that he's done, if John Doe went out and committed the same crime, would this not insult the one who pardoned him? Would not the courts and the governors deal with the man much harshly the next time? Like, oh, you didn't appreciate the grace. Wait till you stand before me in the courtroom next time. Because the governor didn't save John Doe so that he can go out and commit the same crimes and even more crimes all over again, right? He didn't pardon him so he can go out and break more laws, the one included that he did before and then even more. And so slipping up and making a mistake is one thing, but willfully returning to sin, that's an entirely different situation. And so we are under grace so long as we do not continue to break the law. How many of you heard it that way? Write this down so that you don't ever forget it. We are under grace so long as we do not continue to break the law. But what every true believer needs to know is this: we can fall from grace. I know they don't teach this in the Christian church, but we can fall from grace. Grace is a gift. A gift that can be removed if one continues to be rebellious and disobedient. And again, this is what we would call tempting the Messiah. This is what's called tempting the Messiah. Again, I'm going to say it again. We are under grace so long as we do not continue to break the law. Again, it's a gift. This is tempting the Messiah because we are treating his blood, his precious gift, his grace, as if it was nothing. Anytime we go against the truth that Yah's Spirit has made clear to us, we're casting off Paul's warnings when his warning says, 1 Corinthians 10 and 12, he says, so the one who thinks he is standing firm should be careful not to fall. When you think you're standing firm, you think you're straight, you think you got your salvation on lock, he said you better be careful that you don't fall. What is Paul saying? He's saying you better walk circumspectly because at any time you can lose your salvation. He is saying you better do what? Work out your salvation with fear and trembling. If many of you heard that before, now you got a new meaning to what that means, to work out your salvation with fear and trembling. Because you can fall from grace. You only have grace as long as you continue not to break the law. Once you continue to keep breaking the law out here in the world, the judge, when you go back before the judge, you have revoked that grace. He's taking it back. Now you're going back to jail. Do you understand what I'm saying? I had to give this to you this way so that you can understand. Quickly, Hebrews 6, because I'm almost done now. Hebrews 6. Hebrews 6, 4 through 6 says, "For it is impossible for those who have once descended to immersion and have tasted of the heavenly gift and becoming sharers of the Holy Spirit and tasting the good word of Yah and the works of the power of the world to come and have fallen away. It is impossible for them to renew to repentance." Are you looking at this? He's talking about those who have fallen away from the truth. After he is giving you the truth, you have tasted of the heavenly gift, you have become a sharer of his Ruach HaKodesh. If you have fallen away and you have grieved his spirit to the point that it has left you, he says it's impossible for you to renew to repentance. He says, "For they crucified the Son of Yah a second time." He can't do it again. He gave you his grace. The Yeshua's not getting back up on the tree again. Are you looking at what he's saying? It's impossible for you to do it because he says, otherwise he said, you crucified the Son of Yah a second time and you put him to open shame. Yah is not going to give you another gift, a.k.a. pardon you again and extend his grace to you. When by the way that you live your life, you're showing him that you didn't appreciate what he did for you the first time. He's not going to have him do it again. This is why it says that you won't get a second chance at salvation. You're not going to get a second chance to screw it up. Because otherwise he will have to send his son to be crucified again for the same sins you committed the first time. And that ain't happening. He's not doing it. And so what this means is, let me say this. You were blinded and you didn't know the truth. Then y'all can judge your heart and your intentions on Judgment Day. Okay? But if you repented, you knew the truth, you repented, you were baptized, you received a set-apart spirit, you knew the truth, you were willing to walk in, and after all of that, then you was willing to continue to walk in sin and not repent, you're going to the lake. He says there remains no more sacrifice because now you have insulted the spirit of grace and you are now tempting the Messiah now. So ask yourself, is by the way that I'm living my life, am I testing the Messiah? You've heard all of the testimonies, all of the scriptures I've read, all of the examples. Am I testing him? Am I taking the grace of Yah for granted, spending on his gift that I didn't deserve? Am I doing that? Am I pushing his grace am I pushing him to the envelope and trying to see how far I can get away with what I want to get away with? Hebrews 9:24 through 28 says, "For Messiah did not enter into the Holy of Holies made by hands, which is a symbol of the true one, but in heaven itself, now appear in the presence of Yah on our behalf. Not that he should offer himself, even as the high priest enters into the holies of holies year by year with blood of others. Otherwise, he would have been obligated to suffer many times from the foundations of the world. But now, once and for all," see, he's only doing it once. He's not coming back to do it again. "At the completion of the age," meaning at the end of this world, "he did offer himself to abolish sin. And as it is reserved for men to die once and then after this judgment." So this shuts down that second chance of salvation. You die one time and you go straight to judgment. So Messiah having been offered, it says, so the Messiah having once been offered to bear the sins of many, the Messiah shall appear a second time without our sins for the salvation of those who are waiting for him. So he's coming back for those who are waiting for him. He's not coming back a second time to go get up on the tree and die again. He's not doing that again. He started the race and he gave you the baton, and it is up to you to work out your salvation with fear and trembling. It is for you to take the gift of grace and run with it. Work it out like your soul depend on it. Don't allow nobody while you on that track to wear you down with all the coats and clothes and be a stumbling block to you. Do whatever you got to do. He said guard it. You got to protect it. And so as far as your salvation goes, and for those of you who say, well, nobody's perfect, or I'm just a sinner, I say this. And this was something I was going to put up on Facebook, and I will. I wrote this down as I was being led. It was something that I saw in a testimony that I'm getting ready to play right after I bring Prina in. And he talked about not being a product of your environment, but about your choices, being a product of your choices and your decisions. So I wrote this down. You are not a product of your environment. You are a product of your mindset. I grew up in poverty. I grew up in the hood, not having a lot, suffering trauma, and having a lot of things happen to me, where a lot of people say she ain't going to come up out of this. She's going to be nothing. She ain't going to finish school. She ain't going to do this. She going to be pregnant. I shut all of that down. Many of us, Israel, grew up in the hood. And although many of us grew up in the hood or grew up in poverty or suffered much trauma as a so-called African American, we can escape the slave mentality. Because many of us still have that slave mentality, that woe is me. Likewise, as those who are diligently striving for the kingdom. We are not a product of our environment, a.k.a. we are not a product of the world. We are in the world, but we are not of the world. We can't escape unrighteousness and sin because our Messiah paid the price for the ordinances and the judgments that was against us. And when I say ordinances, I mean he paid the price for the law of sin and death that was against us. He became the sacrifice so that we wouldn't become the sacrifice. He came for the lost sheep of the household of Israel, and he came to set the captives free. The door has been opened. You just have to walk out. I couldn't allow the fact that I grew up in poverty and grew up in the hood and not having anything to hold me back. And I'm not getting ready to get on Facebook and even now, even on this broadcast, I can sit up and tell you, Prina knows all the accomplishments that I've had, the things that I've been through, and who I am today. I overcame my triumphs, my trials, my tribulations, the things that I grew up in not having. I didn't use them as an excuse to continue to stay. Well, I'm in the hood, so I got to stay in the hood and keep it real. No, I don't. I grew up in the hood. That don't mean I got to continue to live in those kind of subpar conditions. The door has been opened. We are not a product, just like I wasn't a product of my environment that I grew up in. I overcame that. You are not a product of your environment. We're in this world, but we're not of this world. We're not a product of this world. The door has been opened. You have to just walk out. Yeshua came to set the captives free. Don't let Satan tell you that you're just a sinner and that you can't be perfect. That's a lie from the pit of hell, because my master said you are perfect. He says, be you perfect, for your Father in heaven is perfect. We have been commanded to be perfect. So when you say I'm just a sinner and can't nobody be perfect, that's a lie. Whose report you going to believe? Satan, your pastor, or the word? Yeshua tore the veil. He removed the veil so that you can now have direct access to the Father. He didn't die on the tree so that you continue in sin and abuse grace. Grace is a gift of time. It's a gift of time that Yah has granted to you, has pardoned to you, so that you can repent and get right with him before it's too late. Grace is not given to you so that you can tempt the Messiah and see how much sin you can get away with, all the way up until your deathbed, and then think you can say a prayer and it all is good and dandy. Do not be deceived. Do not be deceived. And in the word of my master, Yeshua, let no man deceive you. And better yet, with vain words, philosophy of men. And I want to say this. There are many in hell right now because their grace ran out. There is an expiration on grace. Don't continue to play with your salvation. I'm telling you, in the end, it's not going to be worth it. Repentance does not seem like a gift, and I say this all the time. Repentance doesn't seem like a gift until it's taken away from you. There are many people in hell right now that wish, Prina, you could come in, that wish that they could repent, and they cannot repent. That gift has been taken away from them. Do not continue to tempt the Messiah. I'm done.
Awesome. I mean, just learning some things that I did not know, and and just especially with I knew about what our forefathers did, but just learning from the examples in Numbers 21 and 25, and I read about them, but just to really go over them in depth, that stood out to me, and how all these things equal to not only idolatry, but the great sin of fornication that our people is just have been known for throughout Israel's existence. And not only that, what really stood out to me was in the beginning when you talked about discipleship and how this all tied into it with Moses, and how he drew the line in the sand and basically wiped out those that wasn't serving Yah, because we are called to be separate. And so that really stood out to me in the beginning, and how you set that up with talking about, discipleship and being ye separate, and not putting mother, brother, father, sister before you, and anything that you can't separate from, those are idols to you, and just bring it back from the lesson that I did on idolatry. But it just really just stood out how important it is that we have to separate ourselves from those that are not serving Yah, and how it caused, great sin to Israel, those plagues that fell upon Israel.
Yeah.
And how if Aaron's son, I forgot his name, Phinehas.
Finance, yeah. That was I learned a lot of new stuff doing this. That stood out to me was a reason, because I'm like, why he won't let them in? Why did he? He did not want to have the rest of the people who were righteous be affected.
Yeah.
And he was like, no. But he didn't want to interfere with the judgment of Yah.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
By helping them. And that stood out to me more than anything. Yeah. I had not even considered that. It was a lot of things that was brought to my attention with this teaching that really gave me a deeper understanding, because I had a surface understanding. I did not understand that at first, because I'm like, what is this? It was really about not, when the judgment has come, we're not as much, and it didn't matter, who they were. Once the judgment went out, he said he didn't care, and he made it clear. Neighbor, your kin people, your brothers, whoever, that's you got to separate from them, and they was getting ready to be cut off.
Yeah, and that's what really stood out, because you read these things, but until that was an in-depth lesson. I really learned from that interfering, and earlier in the week I was reading Isaiah with the Sapharians.
Yeah, really? Oh, wow.
Yes, I was and I'm like, what's this? And I looked it up. So when you talked about it, I'm like, oh my goodness, wow, yes. I'm sorry, but and just learning what the true meaning of gluttony,
Oh yeah, that was another one. Yeah,
that really hit home, because I too was in ball pure and great fornication in my marriage, and and I shared with you, when I told my husband we did a lesson on Baal pure, and he was like, "Well, call your time, because she knows." because I was just coming in truth, and I was telling them, no, we can't do this no more. He was like, I said, I am not going to call her and embarrass myself. You know what I'm saying? Because I know what to say. And so that was an issue, too, in our marriage, but just knowing just what the gluttony and the great sin, the fornication of Israel. And then when he was playing that, you did that video and that song came on, that he played, that like some of the songs, the top 25 songs.
Yeah.
And you don't think about these songs.
The SWV Downtown, that's the way to my love, licking around. That's what that was about, Lil' Kim and How Many Licks and 50 Cent, the Candy Shop, it's so many.
Yes, you don't realize back then you sung it because that was just the era of and you have to, like, now that you are in truth, that's what really brought home to me is you have to really guard yourself and pay attention. Don't listen to the catchy beats and, what's going on. You have to be very observant because before you know it, you'll be singing it, I know. And so it's just to know those things. I knew about, what's his name?
That was Flow Rider, that one that was playing on there. Yeah. And then they got Rihanna's birthday song, the birthday cake. Yep, that's the birthday song. That's another one. So it's like so many.
Yes.
They're singing about Baal Peor and like the audio clip that you guys heard, the actual video. And I will put the link to that video.
Okay,
once it tapes, so that when those of you go to YouTube, I'll put the link so you actually can see when he was talking about the Baal Peor and the statues and that they had of their god. They were all had their legs open, doing anal oral sex. That's what the statues were. Yep.
Wow.
Then the Blue Letter Bible clearly said what it was. It was, the Lord of the opening, the Lord of the gap, like eating from places of waste. It says unlawful sexual intercourse, lascivious sex, and it talks about that's unrestrained, like just doing whatever, swinging, doing just whatever just anything, animals, all these things. They're not of Yah, and I know this lesson messed with a lot of marriages, but we're going to have to, my whole thing at this point, we got to, either you care about your salvation or you don't.
Yeah, that's true.
If you can't stop, it's gluttony because it's about your pleasures.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And fornication is a serious.
It covers a lot, doesn't it?
Yes, and not only that, that's a strong demon that you have to fight. And I told you, fornication was my thing, and I had to go to Yah on that one. Okay. I literally that was something that was a stronghold, and I had to go to Yah on that, and it's not a light thing. Like some people have other sins that they have to go to Yah fasting, and I had to go to Yah with fornication. But what people don't realize is fornication, you sinning against your own body, where the temple, where Yah is set apart spirit is supposed to dwell.
Yes.
And you can't. If you're not wondering why Yah is not there, and that's one of the reasons. He can't dwell with a temple full of sin. And then also, he can't intervene, like you were saying, too, when you are, when you are stepping in he's trying to do something to somebody, or judgment has fell on somebody, and you trying to intervene. And so
that was powerful because I did not. I mean, like I didn't get that at first, and I didn't know that's what that was. When they were talking about them that joined themselves to Baal Peor, and I didn't understand like why did he just pierce them? But it was about like when we think about we look through our Torah. That many people were outside the camp. If they had a plague or an issue, they were not allowed to come in because you protecting everybody else. And so that's, pretty much how it is, unfortunately. It's the clean versus the unclean, righteous versus the unrighteous. And it's like when you can, if you bring something that's abominable inside, and after Yah has said no, now sin is going to fall on everybody else, like the man who brought it in, that brought it in the camp. Akon that brought it in. So, so look what happened. How many fell because of his disobedience. So you cannot, Saul doing what he did. Look what happened to him. He was partially obeying Yah, and look what happened. So
even so when she stole her father's stuff, and Jacob cried out, and she died at birth. With her second son. So this was definitely an eye-opener lesson. I'm sorry, I'm tongue-tied. No, but an eye-opening lesson, and it really, shows you the many multiple ways that you can tempt the Messiah and not even know that you are tempting them. And so it was well needed, and it was multifaceted, and I truly learned a whole lot in this lesson that I did not clearly understand or know, and so Toda Yah, praise be to Yah on that one. So I really truly learned a lot in this lesson.
Yeah, and it's cleared up. So I know this lesson was not about, well, let me just get up and talk about worship like this. As I was studying and going through Baal Peor, I didn't realize 1 Corinthians 10 that Paul was actually even. When you know what Baal Peor worship is, I didn't even know that it was even being mentioned in the New Testament. When people call it the New Testament, I did not know that it was being mentioned, and so I learned that. I knew what Baal Peor was from our previous studying on this, but I did not know that it was being mentioned in Corinthians. And I didn't know that these were things that they were doing that tempted Messiah. I didn't know that because of that worship, that 24,000 lost their lives because of it. I didn't know. It was a lot, you know what I'm saying? And so that was his judgment. So it was, like you said, it was very multifaceted. I'm like, ooh, I had no idea. I thought at first it was going to be a light lesson. But this was much deeper than I could ever imagine.
It was very deep. It was very deep, and you learn just so much, especially, just obeying the Most High Yah in the way He has required you. And sometimes you can't intervene when Yah is separating. And you got to just basically, if you're serving Yah, you gotta know when to walk away and when to stay,
Yeah.
And what really brought out to me is those emotions. We are emotional beings, and we have to learn how to cut people off even though we love them. You know what I'm saying? Because it can cost you the plague.
Because you're allowing them, because that's the reason why they weren't allowed to come in, because it's no, the judgment is. And then also, just like if you weren't clean, if you were unclean, we had to look at examples. You weren't even allowed to reside. You had to be outside until you got yourself together. And so we have to apply that to today. Same thing. Nobody that, any of our forefathers, you was not living in the camp unless you were serving God. Just like the gentleman said, you can't be a disciple unless you're willing to. Delay is a problem with many of our people, and that was what the man, when Yeshua said, follow me, I got work for you to do. When he called out of the disciples, all of them, they was in the middle of doing things, and they stopped. Nobody said, well, I got to go see about this. It's no, when he's calling you, don't you think he know about everything else you got to do? He's telling you, look, I'm the priority right now. So what you getting ready to do? Because I told you to follow me. He's not concerned about what we consider. When they ask him, where are you, your mother and father looking, he tell them, well, who's my mother and father? Those doing the will. That's all he's concerned about. I'm doing the will of my Father. I'm not concerned about my family right now. So we're heading over. It's getting. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, may Yah bless and keep thee. May He make His face shine upon thee and be gracious to thee. May He lift up His countenance upon thee and give you peace. I want to put this audio on, this testimony, this powerful testimony. And I wanted to leave you with this. This was a blessing to me. I heard this. This was at our staff meeting, and I was like, oh, this will be just powerful for today. Imposing your will.
Do not allow. What will take you away from the love of the Messiah? Sometimes when things happen, we talked about this for the show. Sometimes he said this is not this is not a sin unto death. Remember we were reading, and he said this man is blind. Who sinned? His mother, her father sinned, and who sinned? He said this is not sin unto death, but this is a sin unto blindness is unto the glory of Yah. Sometimes things will happen for the glory of Yah. And so I want you to listen to this powerful testimony, and we thank you for joining us on this Shabbat. Please listen to this, and Shabbat Shalom, and may Yah bless and keep you all.
No matter how much you love
Mr. Inky Johnson. Put your hands together, guys. Every day I'm chasing something different. Every day the way I operate is totally different, and it's not about the product for me as much as it is about the process. And what I mean about the process saved my life. You see, my mother had me when she was 15 years old, right? Over on the east side of Atlanta, we came up in this neighborhood by the name of Kirkwood, drug dealer on every corner, gang members in the neighborhood, 2-bedroom home, 14 people, used to sleep on the floor. Got the opportunity to sleep in the bed one time out of the week. It was 6 of us in the bed, 3 at the foot, 3 at the head. And I came up with this dream pretty quick. I said, man, I want to go to the NFL because I had 8 uncles in that house, all 8 of which are still going in and out of prison. And so pretty quick, I said, man, I want to go to the NFL. So I went to my big cousin Tamar one night. I said, man, listen, I want to go to the NFL, so we got to work for this thing. So the thing we're going to do every night, we're going to be patient. We're going to engage in consistent action. Every night, we're going to race light pole to light pole with no shoes. So every night we would get out in the street, race light pole to light pole. One night a coach came down the street. He signed me and my cousins up for organized sports, right? First time being in organized sports. We get in organized sports. The thing was, after practice, everybody would leave to go home. And I always had to sit on the bench and wait on my mother because she worked at Wendy's. And so when my mother would show up in the park, it would be about 10 o'clock, 10:30 at night. So I'm sitting there, and when my mother would pull up, she drove an old Buick Regal, hubcaps off the car, seats torn up, the car was all beat up. And she would pull up in the park 10:30 at night. I would jump off the bench. I would sprint over to my mother. I would say, Mom, if you don't mind, can you please sit back in your car and turn on your car lights? I have to do some extra drills. I have to go to the NFL. She would never have to work another day in your life. And I knew my mother was hot. And every night, my mother would sit back in that car, and those car lights would hit that field. And he had a 7-year-old kid doing backpedaling drills, running sprints, running laps, chasing his dream to go to the NFL. But just beyond those car lights, I could always connect with my mother's eyes, so it made me dig a little bit deeper. It made me push myself a little bit further. It made me work a little bit harder. It created a certain level of sweat equity in what I was doing. It created a certain level of pride in what I was doing. You know why people quit? People don't have pride in what they do. You know why people stop? They're selfish, and it's just about them. But when you have a bigger purpose to why you're doing what you're doing, and you want to honor the sacrifices that others have made for you, it's nothing for you to keep going when you hit adversity. If every decision and choice you make is just about you, at a certain point you're going to hit something that's a lot tougher than you, that's going to make you quit because you don't have a driving force for why you do what you do. But when I got up to the University of Tennessee, it was simple. It was simple for me to give everything I had. My freshman year, I played special teams. My sophomore season, I broke the starting lineup, had a really strong sophomore season. The summer heading into my junior year, I still remember the day where I was sitting in our film room, and I was watching film on the California Bears. My defensive backs coach, Larry Slade, came in the room. He said, Inky, I got some good news for you. I dropped the clicker. I said, what is it? He said, man, you're a projected top 30 draft pick, son. He said, all you have to do is play the next 10 football games. You're an automatic multimillionaire. I went out of the room. I called my mother and my grandmother on the three-way. I said, after this season, there will be no more struggle. And they said, we will never miss another minute. I hung it up. First football game, I went out, played great, got an interception, shut Cal down. Second game, we playing against Air Force, got late in the game, fourth quarter, guy dropped back, he threw the ball to a receiver coming out my sideline. Me and the guy, we went head on. As soon as I hit the guy, I felt as if every breath of my body left. Body went completely limp, fell to the ground, I blacked out. Never happened to me. When my eyes opened, I'll never forget, my teammates ran over. They said, Ink, get up, let's go. I said, I can't. I can't move. He said, what do you mean you can't move? You're our lockdown corner, man. We need you. Let's go. I said, I know, man, but this time I can't move. I flipped my head up to the sky and said, God. I said, surely nothing has happened in this moment that can alter my life. They got me over to the hospital. They took me back. They ran CAT scans. They brought me back into my room. And all in a 15-second time frame, the doctor came running in from the opposite side. He said, hey, get in here. We got to rush this guy back to emergency surgery. He's about to die. I said, what? He said, son, you have busted up the subclavian artery in your chest. You're bleeding internally. We have to rush you back, take the main vein out of your left leg, plug it into your chest in order to save your life. When I opened my eyes from recovery, the same doctor who was over me said, son, has some good news and some bad news for you. I said, you got some bad news for me? I had to tell him I was about to die. I'm still alive. How bad can it get? I'm still here. He said, the good news is we saved your life. I said, thank you, sir. He said, the bad news is, Ink, you have nerve damage in your right shoulder. I said, okay, cool. He said, but son, it's a strong possibility that you probably can never play the game of football again in your life. I said, no way. I said, no disrespect to you, Doc, but I've been working for this ever since I was 7 years old. I said, no disrespect to you, Doc, but you wasn't in the park with me and my mother when I was 7 years old and she was sitting in that Buick Regal. She got done working at Wendy's. No disrespect to you, Doc, but you didn't come up in that 2-bedroom home, 14 people sleeping on the floor. No disrespect to you, Doc, but you didn't miss those meals and stay focused and never made an excuse. I never cheated. I never cheated. Like my conscience still until this day won't let me, like I can't cheat. I can't look myself in the mirror and say, Ink, you did a good job knowing that I cheated. I can't cheat. One of the greatest pieces of advice that my mother gave me was this, son, whenever you start, you make sure you finish. And the problem with the world today, people get involved with things, and if they don't like a certain person, if they don't like the process, if it's not what they thought it was, they quit. And what they don't understand about quitting becomes a habit that doesn't just affect you. Later on in life, when you get a wife and you get some kids or you get a family, it's going to come back to hunt you, and it will one day affect them. That is why I tell you the process is more important than the product. It's not even about the outcome for me. It's about, can you take pride in what you do as an individual, and every night when you look in the mirror, knowing that you gave everything you had to it. And we have to get to the point where we're willing to impose our will on certain things. Impose your will on it. My life totally changed. And they gave me an opportunity to stop. And most people, when you give them an opportunity to stop while they're chasing something, they take advantage of it because they feel as if, man, why did this have to happen to me? I felt as if, why not me? This is the perfect opportunity to use this to be a blessing to somebody else. And you know what? It's not even about me to be truthful. It's not even about me. Now it's about repaying the people that invested in me and saw something in me when I couldn't see it in myself. At a certain point in life, it can't just be about you. And the moment that we understand that, and every day we wake up, we understand that life is a blessing and life is a gift. And if you were to check out today, how would you want to be remembered? It's bigger than you.